is signing in right now. Call a December 9th, 2024 meeting of the Harris Township Board of Supervisors to order. Please join me in the Pledge of the Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First, I'd like to apologize. It is a little crowded in here. We thought about moving it to the fire hall just a little too late to meet state requirements to be able to do that. We couldn't advertise it in time. So, again, sorry about that. First on the agenda is actually a public hearing. We have two of them this evening. First is proposed ordinance 372, permitting indoor recreational facilities in the general commercial and general industrial zoning districts.
At the August 12th meeting, the Board of Supervisors received a request from Center Elite Gymnastics to amend the General Industrial District to add indoor recreation as a permitted use. The request was discussed by the Planning Commission at their August and September meetings, with the Commission recommending the Board of Supervisors adopt an amendment to permit and define the use. In early October, Center Elite Gymnastics indicated that they are no longer looking to establish a location in Harris Township. The owner of the Boalsburg Industrial Park requested that the township consider moving forward with the amendment to allow the use within the general industrial district. The Board of Supervisors discussed the proposed ordinance at the October 11 meeting, directing staff to make one minor amendment to the definition of amusement enterprise and to add indoor recreation facility as a permitted use in the general commercial district. Proposed ordinance number 372 was reviewed by the Center Regional Planning Commission at their December 5th meeting.
Should that be general industrial district? Second to last sentence?
Yeah, probably should.
That should be general industrial and commercial.
Yep, general industrial and commercial. Okay. Typo. Anyway. So anybody here would like to comment on this public hearing? Come to the front and introduce yourself. Seeing none.
We adjourn. Second.
Okay. All in favor of adjourning this public hearing? Say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next, we have another public hearing, the 2025 Harris Township operating budget.
The 2025 Harris Township operating budget proposes general fund expenditures of $3,587,646 and expenditures of $721,098 from the special funds. The budget proposes increasing the general purposes millage rate from 4.9 to 6.4 mils. The tax millage rates for fire equipment, capital purposes for the Harris Township Maintenance Department, special projects, fire hydrant assessment, and street lighting will not change. The budget was tentatively adopted on the November 11th meeting and has been available for inspection at the Township office and on the Township website for over the past month.
Anybody like to come forward and make comments on this?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay. Second. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Moving to the regular meeting, first item we have is approval of minutes from November 6th budget meeting and November 11th public hearing and November 11th 2024 regular meeting.
Motion to approve all three of those. Second.
Okay. Do you have any comments from the board on corrections on the minutes? Okay, and seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now's the time for citizen comments, but this is for any item that's not on the agenda. If anybody'd like to come forward and make a comment about any item that's not on the agenda, they can do so now. Introduce yourself again at the mic. Anything for later, for a agenda item, there will be plenty of time for public comment once the board discusses it. So, any comments? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on. New agenda items. We require, Pennsylvania Act 65 requires the posting of agendas on the Township website 24 hours before a meeting. Does anybody have any emergency additions to the agenda? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on. So, Township business. First, we are going to recognize Neil Porterfield, former Planning Commission member. Neil Porterfield, former Planning Commission member of the Planning Commission, passed away on November 23rd at the age of 88. Mr. Porterfield served on the Planning Commission from 2012 to 2017, offering invaluable contributions that have shaped the development and planning of the township. The board wishes to recognize his commitment to Harris Township and express their condolences to his family, friends, and colleagues. So, we are going to start the Harmony Acres sketch plan. So, I'd like to, obviously, it's obvious that a lot of you are here for comments about that and to hear what we're going to be doing. So let me explain how we're going to do this by procedure. First, our zoning officer will read the agenda, read his contribution to the agenda. Manager Mark will make a little presentation explaining the process and the way zoning and state law works in a nutshell, I hope. And then at that point, the board will discuss it, and after the board's had some discussion on it, we will open it up for public comment. I appreciate during that public comment that people don't repeat themselves, repeat things that have been said already, and that you attempt to keep your comments fairly brief, because this could go on a long time. So, go ahead, Todd.
Okay. After a recent meeting with staff, Bob Poole of S&A Homes agreed to submit a concept plan for a 17-plus acre parcel located between Shingletown Road and the Outer Drive cul-de-sac in Harris Township, Harris Acres. The concept plan proposes 49 building lots, 2 tentative stormwater collection areas, and 4 acres of parkland with 3 pedestrian connections to the interior streets, as well as a connection to the section of Outer Drive in Fairfield. The property is zoned single-family residential and is located within the public water and sewer service areas. Mr. Poole presented the sketch plan to the Planning Commission at their November 18th meeting. A copy of the draft Planning Commission minutes for that item were included with the board agendas. The concept sketch plan process in Harris Township is an informal opportunity for constructive discussion. The board may offer whatever non-binding comments or suggestions it deems to be appropriate. This step is recommended but not required by the ordinance, so no plan has been officially submitted and no time clock for plan approval has been initiated. This is just a discussion item for the board at this meeting.
And so a few things I wanted to mention before the board starts discussing. As Todd noted, this is a sketch plan, meaning that it is an informal submission for the Township Planning Commission and Board to provide your comments. As such, staff has not done any review of this plan to determine whether or not it's compliant with our ordinances. If a plan is submitted in the future, that's something that would happen at that time. Ultimately, our regulations, just as any municipality's regulations, consist of requirements that in some cases have defined metrics that have to be met, in other cases have aspirational goals and statements that we as staff during the review process will try to work with the developer to achieve. And so the other thing I'd mention as well is that if a plan is ultimately submitted that complies with the township's regulations, at that point we would be recommending approval, as that is what is required by state law, essentially. The other thing I'd mention as well is that we did receive a letter from residents in the Fairfield and Harris Acres neighborhoods yesterday, late yesterday, and I forwarded that along to the board this morning. So you have a copy of that and the comments that were submitted by the residents.
Thank you, Mark. So, open it up for discussion from the board. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
We have one other development in the township, Liberty Hill, that encountered the same kind of citizen input. And because they worked with us, I think we came up with a very unique, workable solution. This project, I think, has that. There's a possible connection to Route 45 going through the parkland. We have two entries. What we did in Liberty Hill was made a one-way entry into Liberty Hill off of Memorial Drive. Exit from Liberty Hill is down to 322. I would propose that we take the outer drive connection, the Harris Acres one and the Fairfield, make them in only, and all exit traffic goes to the new Route 45 connection. There's enough space right in that sort of strange triangle to connect to 45, because in fact it faces for Route 45. So we would change the whole traffic flow one way in and heading out onto Route 45. Other than that, the concept plan, is pretty doable. Something, Bob, you could think about. It would sort of interrupt the continuous nature of the parkland, but I think it would solve a major traffic flow issue, particularly because we're going to be dealing with, what time span would it take to build this thing out? 3 years?
Probably 3 years, around 3 years.
So we'd be dealing with construction vehicles over the span of 3 years. Then we'd be dealing with resident vehicles, and a project like this typically would generate about 5 daily trips in and out. So we'd be dealing with 5 times 40, 250 vehicle trips. I'm trying to reduce that and get that traffic moving further out into the highway. So that's my proposal. Thank you, Bob.
All right. Mr. Poole, would you like to present this before we discuss any more?
It's,
If you like, you're perfectly welcome to it. You have to go up to the mic and.
yeah, my name is Bob Poole, and I actually have S&A Homes, and Tom Jacobs is with me. He heads up all the land development for our company, not just here but everywhere. I don't know if this is working or not. I guess it is.
It doesn't actually project.
Oh, it doesn't. Oh, okay. Then I'm glad you told me that. It didn't sound very good. Anyway, I think part of it, we've developed a lot of the State College area, and Top Trees is ours, and Grays Woods, and Fox Point, and Landings, and Saybrook. And we range in all types of houses, all types of sizes. We feel, actually in some of the areas here, we have not reduced it to the lot size that's allowed by the ordinance. So I think as you go in there, you'll find we have designed this to meet all the ordinance of your township. The houses that we'll build here, because I think there's certain things that are important to residents, is that the houses, we've looked at it already, our homes in here will be priced equal to or higher than what the resale is in both Harris Acres and also in Fairfield, because what we do, obviously I have it in here, we did all the research to make sure where those homes should be price-wise, because we understand that, even though I'll be honest with you, I'm really for workforce housing and favor it. It's certain areas it should be, certain areas it shouldn't. So these will be in the high fives, low fives. Let's say the 600,000 or up homes, which is very comparable to what's sold in both the areas. We also, with the parkland, our requirement is, I think it's 2.45 or 2.46. We're proposing 4 acres. Part of that is also to preserve the wooded nature of it. And I understand this because I develop all over the country, not just here in Pennsylvania. And I understand residents when they look and say, wow, we've used this for a long time to walk on it. And I don't own the property. The owners have decided to sell their property, which I think it's fair and they have a right to. What we try to do is try to preserve as many trees as we can. I'm not going to sit here and say it's all going to be preserved. I think the way we've laid it out gives a great opportunity to preserve the perimeter and as many trees as we possibly can. If the owners decided they wanted to keep it and all, that would be different. And I don't blame them either, because to be honest with you, even farmers, I constantly are buying farms from farmers who that's their retirement, and I think it's a fair thing to do. So we have to meet the traffic impact study. We'll do a traffic study. We'll meet the stormwater management. We have to meet all the requirements that are there, and obviously your staff will make sure that happens. And I'm really happy to answer any questions anyone has, because we even though some people, a lot of people never like to see development right next to where they're at. I think we end up being pretty good neighbors. And if you look at the developments around here, we develop anywhere from starter home, which if you go down to Bellefonte area, to pretty high-end homes. That's.
Since I can read that so well, you've got the Route 45 coming this direction, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and you exit on, there's Outer Drive. Where's Atherton?
Atherton is down. Yeah, it's down. Yeah, it's not shown on the map. It is. Yeah, it's down. Yeah, it's down there.
There's 2 other tracks between that and Kennard
Yes.
Road, apparently, also, that aren't developed.
Would you mind pointing out where 45 is, More
Yeah.
specific.
It's right
Right
there.
Going this way.
I would have a concern about the traffic flow as well. Where traffic is going to end up flowing.
Yeah, and we'll do we're actually required, Mark, that we're required to do a traffic study, a full traffic impact study that'll tell us if there's any issues or any conflict or whatever. That has to be done.
One of my suggestions, based
Yeah.
upon traffic, is that entry out of Harris Acres is a terrible intersection. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Bring it into 45 and eliminate that volume.
Yeah, and we'll look at, you'll definitely look at
Okay,
it. Yeah,
take that into
Yeah,
consideration.
absolutely.
45 is awful too. That's a terrible turn on
Yeah.
45.
You're right. I mean, traffic, obviously the positive about State College, is that we have all these extra things we can do because we do have reasonable growth. You go to areas like Clearfield or Lewistown where you have no growth and you have financial issues. So it does have an impact. Yeah, I mean, we just developed where the Aldi is, that piece of ground there we're developing, and Atherton Street is really crowded. So I think let us do the traffic impact study and take a look at it. And Des, your comment, let us take a look at that on the
Yeah.
traffic.
All right.
I have a question.
Just-
I'm behind Paul, so just whenever you're ready, let me.
Okay, yeah, we're gonna give an opportunity for questions in a little while for the public. So Frank had something
Yeah, a
to
couple
say.
things. Number one, I think you guys were on this 10 years before I got here, and I've been here for 9. and we've been trying to get PennDOT to slow 45 down and make it safer for as long as, I don't know how many letters, I think we gave up writing letters a while back. But with this much going on there, you know, doing a traffic study is one thing, but I would hope that you would use your political clout to say, PennDOT, we're gonna need a red light along there at the top of the hill to slow them down, or something like that, because even if you take it through Outer Drive, or you come this way, the increased traffic is gonna put an undue burden on 45 and 322 for that matter. So I think from my standpoint, my biggest concern here is the traffic. And if we can get PennDOT to make 45 a more traffic calming area, I think that would, if we could make 45 and put some red lights or turnarounds or whatever we can do to slow them down, turning lanes, whatever, I wouldn't have a problem for it all coming out there. Because it's, again, if we can make 45 slower, but I think that's gonna be very paramount to me when we come up to do this. The other thing I wanted to mention is you talked about workforce housing and affordable housing. You know, for a young couple starting out to get a house, 600,000, they're not even come close to it. I would sooner see houses in a development like this at 250 to 350. I mean, somewhere where because let me finish what I have to say. You can complain later. Here's the thing. Our country our inventory of housing is negative. We don't have enough housing in this country. And if we keep making houses that people can't afford, we're wasting our time. You know, you talk about green energy and we talk about the climate, but there are over 40,000 cars a day comes into Center County because they can't afford to live here, and they drive in, and 70 to 80% of them are single passenger cars. That's how much greenhouse gases. If we can eliminate some of those and have people that can afford to live in our township, in this county, I think we're ahead on and I get tired of hearing people how green they are, but they want to ignore this. And I will tell you, that's my concerns on this property. Whether I know from the law, if he comes in and he follows every zoning and ordinance we have, we're not going to we can't stop him. So that's from here to there, and that's
Frank,
where my comments are.
And Frank, nobody's would like to hear this. We try to fix the community. We try to do what's so we don't hurt the values anywhere else. However, I am a huge proponent of what you just said. I've said the Patton Township, Ferguson Township, I'm working on something now. You know, somebody that plows the streets here can't live here. They have to live a half hour out because they can't afford a home. So I was one of those people growing up, so I get that. So I'm 100% in favor. We propose this because we're trying to make sure that that's why.
I guess my major thought is, again, it has to do with access to the arterial roads. Coming down to 322, that's 5 lanes, 2 lanes each direction, a turning lane.
Yeah.
That's like my butt puckers, you know. So on 45, if we can get the road slowed down a little bit, then you're just talking about a 2-lane road. And to me, that's a lot safer to visualize what's coming and going and pick your opportunities. So that's
What helps a lot at that intersection is the green turn arrow.
Right.
Those turning arrows have helped a lot in terms of keeping moving traffic on 45 through 22.
yeah.
No, you know, and we will, the comments you're making are valid. When we do a traffic study, we don't just see what the traffic study says, we look to see what how can we hopefully improve. Remember, anytime you add traffic or a car, you're gonna do that. I mean, we're going through the same thing now. We're doing the Wawas up in Ferguson and all, the same thing. A lot of cars go in and out of there. So we almost everywhere we go, no matter where we go, what state, traffic is usually the #1 issue. And we definitely work to try to solve that, because I totally understand the traffic issues.
Another question I have is sidewalks both sides. You show sidewalks one side.
We're
right?
showing one side.
Think about putting on both sides.
Yeah, and the reason why, and we can do it. The reason why I do it worked well. We did Stonebridge up in Ferguson Township. It's always worked well. We try to reduce, because you don't have sidewalks now, and I think either one of the developments, Harris Acres or Fairfield, I don't think there's sidewalks. And we do one sidewalk, because what it does in the end of the day, it cuts in half the amount of maintenance required by the people on the sidewalk. And the truth is, you walk across and you can walk the whole circle. If you ever walk, I know what you're saying. We'll look at that, but that's why we did it, and Stonebridge works really well.
Neither Fairfield or Harris Township have sidewalks either side?
No.
And we're looking at a major project of doing sidewalks
Right.
at $200,000 to $300,000. So, you know, put that in your think tank.
Okay. Yeah, I got you.
Anybody else on the board? I'd just like to reaffirm the idea of making a connection to Route 45 and seeing, I mean, the speed limit's 45 there, it's 40 on Atherton Street. Problem with Atherton Street coming out of Hubler Road is the sight distance to the left. And that, you don't have that problem on 45. There's good sight distance both ways. And so there's lots of space. I mean, I can't think of how close, can you picture where Don's Power Equipment would be on 45? I know it'd be off to the right just a little bit.
Don's is right next to it, isn't it?
Yeah, so I wondered how close to an access off Parkland would be close to that.
Is that Don's right
Oh,
there?
that's Don, so it'd actually come out below, right across from Linwood. Oh, that actually, you see, that's a perfect opportunity for a four-way intersection right there. So, anyway, so I think providing an access to Route 45 would be a really good idea. It would make it easier for those residents, and it would reduce traffic through the rest of the other developments.
The single point of entry, like Memorial Drive, works.
Mhm.
People in Liberty Hill like that.
Yeah.
They didn't like it originally because they sort of kept violating it, and we kept seeing it. It's taken a little while, but they like the traffic coming in.
Yeah.
And there's isn't there another entry to up on Myers Estate into Liberty Hill?
Yeah, the end of Bell Avenue.
Way up the.
Bell Avenue is in from Liberty Hill.
Okay.
So it comes in from Liberty Hill to Bell Avenue. I use it a lot.
So we've done that model of single point of entry other times.
Yeah, we've
Yeah.
done that. I agree. No,
Okay. Okay.
Nigel, one thing before you
Yes.
move on to public comment. Since
Okay.
there's so much conversation about this access onto 45, again, we haven't reviewed the ordinance for compliance, but the corridor overlay regulations prohibit access onto 45 for this property. Corridor overlay requires that when you have streets of lesser classification than an arterial street, that's where the access has to be. So our own ordinance prohibits an access from being out on Route 45.
So you wouldn't consider an arterial street going in through Parkland directly to that development?
Now, 45 is an arterial street, so
45 is
any
an arterial,
access
so
to
feet
it
of-
would be prohibited.
We
Okay.
can work on that.
yeah, as I said,
I mean-
we'll look at it. No, you're correct. You're correct
That-
on that, but we'll look at that.
That's interesting. And that is a state requirement then?
No, that's our regulations in
That's
the
our
zoning ordinance,
regulations.
yes.
Hmm, okay. Well,
We can work on that.
yeah, we could.
Mhm.
We made it, we can change.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Exactly right. You're right.
Yeah, very good.
How big are the parcels to the right of yours, Bob? What's the size of those?
That one is 10.4, and then the one to the east of that is 10.2, so about 20 acres combined.
Okay. And they are single parcels? They're-
Correct, yeah, this one's owned by Howard Real Estate,
Oh, okay.
and then the other one's owned by the Bowl family.
Wait, I thought those two were two parcels there, one that bridges that line.
No,
Okay.
it's a private road that
Okay.
goes through it.
And they would have an entry to about 45 if they were developed.
Yeah.
There-
Mm-hmm.
They have no
They
else
have
to
another
go.
option,
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay. All right, I guess the board's done with comments at this point, done with your presentation. I will open it up to comments from the public. Again, come introduce yourself and say what you have to say, but keep it brief, please. So we'll come to the mic, please.
Everybody knows where Harmony Lane is on his map.
What is?
Harmony Lane, the one, the road that comes out of where is
It
that?
would be over here to the east.
It's the other, that's it.
I can, sorry, I'll pull the other map back up here real quick. It's right here, where my cursor's at. That's Harmony Lane right there, and this is the property in question.
Where does Harmony Lane go?
It goes to these two homes back here, and then it comes out here onto 45.
Oh.
Anybody just take the mic?
Yes. First come, first served.
Yeah, so, longtime resident of Fairfield, 31 years. My home would be right about here, looking. Yeah, Greg Phillips, Greg and Sharon Phillips, 1304 Outer Drive at the end of the street here. So if you look out my bedroom window or my kitchen window, you're gonna be looking right into this. The concerns I have, I mean, you mentioned some low-income housing type issues. For me, I wouldn't care if you put, trailers back here, but the density of the trailers that you put back here is a concern to me, because what I see with this number of new homes is what I'm imagining is 49 lawnmowers running, 49 leaf blowers running, 49 times that the garbage truck stops and makes all the noise that the garbage trucks make, 49 dogs barking, just from a sort of, I mean, you can call it aesthetic if you want to think of it that way. There used to be, deer walking out of here and birds chirping in the morning when I sit on my patio, and now aesthetically that's not going to be here. And also from an aesthetic standpoint, my concern is, Fairfield and Harris Acres currently, when if you go from Fairfield and you drive into Harris Acres, there's nothing jarring about that. They feel very compatible and very like they go together. Just from a sketch plan, which is difficult to judge, but it seems very dense, and it seems like you're going into another world here that's, at first, my first concern is this is going to be a lot more traffic, a lot more noise, a lot more everything. And if it doesn't have to be that way, if it could be less dense, if that's a choice that we can make, because we're, I assume you're all residents of Harris Township, and we all have to live here and drive on 45 and so forth. I would vote, if it was me voting, for something just, I don't know how you would redesign it, but just less dense is the way I would put it. Fewer homes would feel better to me as a resident.
Which parcel of that map is yours?
Where's Outer Drive?
Right there.
Right here, so this one, and then right next to this water retention area.
Oh, okay.
Those are my concerns.
Thank you.
What made you choose the density that you chose? I'm sorry,
That's okay. We looked at one is the ability to, one of the issues today is that you very rarely see a 1 acre lot or half acre lot, because it needs to be $200-something and you talk about really jumping everybody out of the market. So I think what you're seeing is, you can always look back 40 years ago and you're going to see 1 acre lots. The cost of infrastructure today, the cost of fees, permits, water, sewer tap fees and all, when you add all that up, right now it's probably running us about $1,000 a linear foot to put road in, water, sewer, and everything else. Part of it is the ability for people to even afford a lot, and that's part of it. So we didn't maximize it. If we maximize it, I think you go down to 50. Is it 50 foot wide? I think your ordinance allows 50 foot wide. These average 65 around. I think the average 64, 65.
about a third of an acre. Correct,
Yeah, no, they're 8,000. They're mostly around 8,000. It's 43,560 is an acre.
So when you said they're 17 plus acre parcel, I took 18 minus 4 divided by 49.
Yeah, and you're gonna see in the future, you're gonna see very few townships anywhere where you're gonna see half acre, 1 acre lots.
How big are the houses you're proposing?
The houses will be very similar. We when we did the sales analysis in Harris Acres and all, ours would be very comparable to that. 20-something hundred square feet. And actually in Harris Acres.
20-something hundred, 2,200 or
22,
2,900?
25. Well, you have in Harris Acres, you have 1,800, 1,900 square foot homes. So if you look at that, there's a variation in size. We'll have the same thing.
Okay.
We'll have the same thing anywhere, in that range, 22. Somebody could build a 3,000 if they wanted to, but yeah.
That's pretty big for that lot.
Well, in most cases, you're building, remember in Harris Acres, you have a lot of ranch homes? And here, you probably have more two-story. You'll have ranches also, but mostly two-story.
How large are the homes on Brandywine Drive, the two long complexes?
On Brandywine, you mean up in
One-
College?
yeah.
We did,
Are they about the same size as?
those lots, there's the single family?
Yeah.
They're smaller.
Okay.
They're actually on this Brandywine, and those homes I think are like 700,000 and they
Oh,
range-
yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
they're most of those homes I think are about 6,000 square foot lots.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this won't look anything like Brandywine. These are
No.
freestanding structures.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, on Brandywine, they're townhomes. I thought I was
Okay.
thinking Canterbury Crossing.
Okay.
The bottom part along the golf course is
The
single
lower-
family.
lower
Yeah,
ones is-
yeah. No, they're totally different. So what you see on Brandywine are actually townhomes. They're attached. These will all be single family lots.
And they all look the same.
Brandywine. Yeah, yeah. They're townhome. It's a townhome community. And you know what's going to happen too? You're going to find that is happening more and more also. There's a reason why, and Frank hit it right on the head. People can't afford these homes. I mean, your interest rates now, instead of being 3%, are now close to 7%. The cost of everything is so high that people are being forced into two things: apartments or townhomes. That's why you see so many of them being built out by the airport. We're building them out in Grays Woods.
Do you anticipate these being football homes?
No, not at all.
None.
No. We did the Village of Penn State.
Yeah.
That's a lot of, yeah, that's totally different here. This is purely for people living here in the area. The Village of Penn State was set up because it's the Village of Penn State. So when you go up there, you'll see it dark a lot until football, then you see all the blue, white, and everything else out there. That's a different community. We are getting more people up there who's permanent. There's a lot of second homes up there.
We're getting more people moving in just to have a football home to go to several weeks a
Yeah,
year.
yeah. That's what you're seeing at the airport, the townhomes are being sold.
Yeah.
A lot of it is that we don't, we have rules set up internally where we don't allow for the Airbnb idea and all in our developments. That's a little different out there. You can buy one and rent right away.
Are you building these homes or are they
Yeah,
people
we'll build
buying the
all.
lots are gonna?
No, we'll build them. The developments that we do, whether it be top trees, whatever, Grays Woods and all, we build Saybrook, we build the homes.
So people
Fox Point.
choose from a portfolio?
Yeah.
All right.
Thank
Yes,
you.
sir.
Hello, my name is Jeremy Trethaway, a four-year resident of Harris Acres. I'm right about here. So very very vested in this decision. So I just want to, yeah, that's us right there.
Okay.
So I want to. Is it Greg? Is that okay? Yeah, I just want to. I don't want to repeat everything that Greg said. I think he said it very well. Major concern is about density. I have a process question. And Frank, you had mentioned something about like as long as SNA comes in with the right zoning, meets zoning and meets ordinance, that the decision's made. I'm trying to understand like what on the margins, like is there ability to influence this?
Yeah, so we have regulations that have been adopted that the developers need to comply with when they come in. But as long as a plan is submitted that meets all of those requirements, the recommendation of the board would be to approve it. And legally, that's what the board should follow through with doing, because the ordinances don't give the option to say, well, if you don't like something about it, you can deny it. It's here's what your entitlements are based on your zoning district. In this case, it's zoned R1. I think it's been zoned R1 for probably the last 50 plus years. So they just need to follow what the R1 district states, the corridor overlay district that Todd mentioned here a little bit ago, and then our subdivision and land development ordinance. As long as they meet all the requirements of that, and that's what staff would check if a plan is submitted, that's when it would go to the board for recommending approval of that.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to understand. So I was the co-signer of the letter that I guess you guys saw either late yesterday or today, and I'm just trying to understand how much of this is speaking into the wind, and as long as the developers meet the requirements, then decision made, or is there any wiggle room at all?
If we were to change the requirements,
Yeah.
we would leave the township legally exposed
Okay.
because we're taking value away from that homeowner.
Okay. Okay.
So it's kind of, you can't change the rules in the middle of the game.
Okay.
What
The game is always being played.
Wow.
But, yeah, I'm sorry?
What homeowners?
Yeah, right.
It's Randy.
It's Randy.
He owns the property. He and his sister.
Was that parcel of land originally part of Harris Acres?
You know, I don't know.
Jeff, Greg, you have any idea?
No clue.
What, if it was part of
We're
that farm?
on Fairfield, that would be the old Ishla farm.
This was owned by, I went back and looked at the prior deeds, I think it was owned by the Hendricks Estate, so I don't, or Hendricks Farm Estate it might have been called, so.
Ray and Shirley.
Oh, folks back here.
That was a farmland. They used to grow oats and corn in there.
Okay.
But
And
it
they
wasn't
had
part of
rezoned.
the.
Good. Thank you for answering it. Just for the record, Randy Hendricks in the back there made a comment about that it was farmland. So,
I guess. Greg Fredericks, you can keep this map up. Greg Fredericks, 350 East Outer Drive. A lot of concern about 45. There's a lot of concern right now about 45. You're talking about the sight distance. Nobody goes 45 on 45. If you follow 45 up to about here, you're coming up over the hill at about Stahl's Barn. You can't see anything, and then suddenly you're over the hill. So when you're already coming out right here, sight distance is a major concern already, because nobody is coming down that hill at 45. And there have been, well, we already know there have been quite a few accidents where Main Street comes out. The same thing, it's a sight distance problem.
That's both directions, isn't it, Greg, for sight distance?
Yeah, pretty much both ways. Yeah, absolutely. I don't want to argue with you, but I would beg to differ from an earlier statement where you said your development will be very compatible with Harris Acres and Fairfield, and it's not. That's why we're all here, just repeating the density. I don't think anybody in their wildest dreams ever thought the two roads called Outer Drive would not connect. But I think especially for pizza delivery people, they were hoping it would connect. The ambulance occasionally has a problem too, but the bigger concern was, okay, we know those roads are going to connect, but it will obviously be very similar to what's already in the neighborhood, which would be roughly half-acre lots. That, I think, is the density you're looking for without having the terrible impacts that occur. Now, also, I have a question for you about your water management. Where's your water going to drain? Because we and you will have an issue with water management. I got to step away from the mic. Phillips live here. The detention pond is here. And the overflow is right here. You can sort of see there's like a dot right there. Then the overflow pipe goes right down here, dumps into Randy's lot. So that is a major concern. In fact, so much so that if for some reason that gets backed up, this lady's house gets impacted. And that's in our all of us, we know from our deeds that that's an area of impact that you've got to be able to deal with.
Does that flow into what's on the property? It says stormwater, 25,000 square feet. Are you pointing to that, Greg?
Yeah, this is a detention pond.
No, a new one in the new property. Keep going. Right there, yeah.
Right like that.
Does it flow into that?
So we're down here.
Okay.
So that overflows about maybe here, and the overflow pipe goes here, and then it dumps down into that development.
So indirectly it gets to that new piece.
Oh, directly it will.
Okay.
Quite directly.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that has to be a very big concern as well. Again, half-acre lots would probably help eliminate that, but you still, I think, have to do something with that.
What's the stormwater flow into that other top basin? What flows into that thing? Way up there. Keep going, keep
Way up
going,
there?
keep going, keep going.
Yeah.
That,
Oh, this whole thing here?
yeah.
That's a new one.
I don't know.
That's a new one.
The engineer may be able to speak to that, but yeah. Somehow, what is it?
Wood.
It just flows into the field now,
So-
right?
It's absorbing into this.
Oh, from taking walks to the end of Outer Drive there, that's that's nothing but woods.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Randy might know better, but it's real.
Okay. And I think one of the things you're hearing tonight is nobody's against you building homes here. I haven't heard anybody in the last week say anything to me, oh, we don't want homes there. What we'd like is something that fits in with the community that already exists so that we can all live in harmony. I wasn't doing that. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Steve Schaefer. I live at the junction of Harris and Outer. So this is us right here.
Okay.
I'm a cyclist. When you're doing a traffic study, think about cars and bikes coexisting. I've been nearly hit twice at that intersection of people coming through and going out towards Atherton at this junction. I don't have a stop sign coming out of the cul-de-sac. And you don't have a stop sign coming this way. But I was nearly hit here coming in a couple months ago. And I'm trying to do something about the climate. I commute on my bicycle, and I do it, 85% of the days. And the traffic study needs to consider that as well. If there are going to be 48 homes here, assume one car per place, maybe two, and that's 48 to 96 cars that potentially, and if we assume that half of them go out towards Atherton, half of them come out onto 45, that's a lot more cars than I have to deal with at this point.
That's why I said daily trips is average about 5 per parcel.
Right.
Times 50 is 250 vehicle trips. And our traffic study people can tell us that. But that's an average of about 5 per parcel.
And my spouse informs me that there were studies of the exit at Atherton in terms of putting a light there, and PennDOT turned it down because it was too close to Scenery Park. And then you're going to have that, if you were thinking about putting another light maybe at Main Street coming out onto 45, that's still pretty close. That's about a half a mile from the light down the intersection of Atherton and Warner Drive there. So.
I suspect the crash data at the intersection of Outer Drive and 322 isn't high enough to justify light.
Right. So I think that, in terms of how we're going to calm down the traffic, that's a really big problem.
Well, that was one of my reasons for suggesting the 45 exit, to get traffic off of that intersection and move it down to 45. But,
My name is Hannah Williams. I'm at 130 Outer Drive. I want to iterate what that gentleman before me had just said in a slightly different way. So I'm a runner. My house is actually off the loop. I can tell you that Harris Drive is a major connecting point between Atherton and 45. Harris Drive and connecting through there, it is the busiest road. So Mr. Hemmeister, you're absolutely right that in Liberty Hill there's a really brilliant solution there. I run up in there, but that doesn't have major connecting points between two main arteries.
no, but it's the closest model we have in and out kind of thing.
Yeah, so coming on Memorial, that kind of works, and it's still very quiet. And the same thing on the back of Bell, it's very quiet because there's no major arteries. It's just the one side, which is 45. Here we have two. So I would even argue that even just having an exit, I think was what you had described on 45 for this, it's just one way, is still even not enough. We have small children that play in these neighborhoods. We don't have sidewalks, which in some ways is kind of charming, but it's a very scary space to think about that much traffic coming through. And I also want to iterate that our property is almost an acre in size. I recognize what Mr. Pohl said, that this is not common these days. the housing in here and its density does not fit within what we are doing here. I think if the lots were 3/4 of an acre or whatever, at least half, I don't think there would be a problem selling them. We've already vaulted past affordable housing in this conversation. The conversation the gentleman earlier brought up was very important, and I agree with, but if we're not gonna have affordable housing, why can't we just have bigger lot sizes and make it blend with the neighborhood better? Thank you.
My name is Will Karski, and so I was the first one to draft that letter that you guys all got to review, and I got a chance to talk to probably about 100 people as a part of this process, and it's been a lot, it really has, and I've spent a lot of time, my wife as well, Kelly, reviewing ordinances to try and understand what's going to happen and as part of all of this. But so this is my home right here, and it's a 3,400 square foot home. The cost is $700,000, and just because I overlaid them myself, but you can't see it here. If you were to overlay one of the lots, it's about that size. Right, it's very small, it's directly adjacent to our home. But anyway, so I've got 2 small kids, a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and we play all the time right here in our driveway and in the road here, biking down the hill. And we go for walks in the woods every day, at least twice a day. And it has been just such a blessing. And I just, honestly, Randy, thank you. Like really, it has been so great for our family, and it's been so special. And I'm deeply saddened that we're gonna lose this property. And I wish that there was an avenue here to pursue conservation, to consider it a community asset and protect the land. I am, at this point, and I would fight for that. I would do everything I could. But at this point, I'm operating under the assumption that it's going to be developed. So I'm really thankful to Mr. Poole that you guys are here sitting and listening to our perspective and thinking about what works best for the community. So just a couple of notes, but yeah, so one of the most common things I've heard as I've talked to about 100 people is actually, I don't want these woods developed at all. I wish we could keep them, but if we have to have them developed, 20 homes is way better than 49. We've already talked about that, so I'm not going to go talking about it more. One of the big reasons why I believe in that is, from what I understand in the ordinances, there's latitude for unique situations, and I'm not an ordinance expert, I've just read them a lot recently. There's latitude for unique situations to require additional things. You pretty much, there's like a statement in there that lets you require anything based on unique situations, right? And I'd have to go back and look at my letter. It's one of the references listed at the bottom. But one of the unique situation that people have talked about is that we don't have sidewalks. So putting 49 homes there maybe made sense if the whole neighborhood had sidewalks, but it's scary with my little kids playing on the road right there. And so I think that warrants protecting my family and other people in the neighborhood to consider limiting the number of houses, or consider some alternatives such as alternate access to Route 45 just for their safety. And I think the ordinances allow that, but that's my layman's read on it. So, yeah, I really hope, the biggest thing I hope, SNA, is that we can collaborate and think about what works best for the community as a whole. We're not fighting this development at this point, right? Like we understand that it's Randy's right to sell and it's your right to build on it. And we just want to consider what works best holistically for the community and work with you on that. And I'm sure
Very good letter.
Thanks. I spent a lot of time on it.
I know probably 18 to 20 people on the side, so a lot of friends up there, so.
And my wife to say all the things I'm forgetting.
I'm Kelly Karski, Will's wife. So yeah, I live right here at 1301 Outer, and I just wanted to say that the way that we landed on 20 houses is we took a snip of that parcel and overlaid it in multiple ways over Fairfield and Harris Acres, and the average is a little bit below 20 actually in our neighborhoods. And I agree with the housing prices, but when we bought 3 years ago, there's a reason we moved into this neighborhood. There are a lot of options in State College to get a house like what is proposed in the sketch plan, and there are not very many opportunities for this. And we waited for a year, and then we bought the first house that came up for sale in Fairfield because we wanted to live in a neighborhood with larger lots, with a really good community feel like that is unique to State College. So to me, it really matters to preserve the character that Harris Acres and Fairfield have. And I also think there's latitude in the ordinances to do that and to preserve character of the neighboring and adjoining neighborhoods. I also wanted to ask, when you've talked about a little bit some of the research, sales studies that you've done, did you include Fairfield or was that just Harris Acres? Okay, because I just know that in Fairfield, the size of the homes is a lot larger than what is being proposed in yours. And I think the home values are also, I don't know about home values, but certainly the size and the lots. And I know Harris Acres has some of the smaller homes, but so, yeah.
You're right. Fairfield, the homes are larger because the average, and that's one of our issues, the average, even though everyone's saying the lots are larger, the average sale price was only $466,000 in Harris. All these are recorded in the courthouse. They're not anything we make up. 17 to 26 under 500. 11 of those 17 under 400,000.
In Harris Acres.
So our proposal was 550 to 650. So we're actually at a disadvantage trying to sell in our neighborhood that actually homes are selling for less. So
but that's for Harris Acres, not Fairfield.
Fairfield's higher.
Yeah, and I think you'll find that a lot of those homes in Harris Acres that have sold recently are maybe a few smaller houses. And houses don't come up for sale in these neighborhoods very often. And so I'd be interested to actually see the breakdown of what data is being used there. I think
yeah, and it's all recorded in the courthouse. Every sale is recorded. Yeah, that's what we do. We just get the number because I knew that question would come up, which is fair.
Yeah, but it does sound like you're just using Harris Acres and not Fairfield.
We also use on the sales used Fairfield also. Let me see. Yeah, 307 Fairfield Drive, 310 Fairfield Drive, 318 Fairfield Drive. Yeah, so we use Outer Drive, Kennard Road.
Bob, can I ask when was the last time those things sold?
Well, it's
so on average right now in Harris Acres.
Yeah.
I mean, we bought our house for $600,000 3 years ago, so and it's gone up.
Forget, the one thing you're seeing now, though, is when you're saying that is that house prices are coming down. They're coming down because there wasn't enough inventory because the rates were, what I talked about earlier, and Frank is actually right, the rates were the mortgage rates were high, people weren't selling their homes, there was no place to buy a home, so what do you do, supply and demand says, now I want $700,000 for my house, it's worth $6. And people paid it because they had to do it. I think, house prices are dropping.
Okay, we can't turn this into a conversation in the room because this has to be recorded in the minutes.
You're right.
So we have to, if you have something significant to say, you have to get to the mic. And again, introduce yourself, so.
May I ask you a question? When you did the proposal, when you did the site, I'm assuming that you looked at different parcel sizes. So you looked at the acre parcel size, you looked at the half acre parcel size, you looked at, and is there enough, like, when you went and looked at the sale of houses in Fairfield specifically, over the past couple years, what was the average house sold for over the past 2 years in Fairfield? What was the average sale price of the house in Fairfield?
I can get that, but I don't have the, our guys just took the last 2 or 3 years.
But you don't have the average.
In Fairfield, now I had the average. What they did, they gave me the average for both developments.
I'd like to see the average for Fairfield alone, and then the average for Harris Acres alone.
Yeah. And if we had to, here's the difference also is that, like I said, one of the things you have to factor in is that I know everybody wants 20 lots. If we were to do 20 lots, remember I said what the price would be, now you're looking at $700,000 to $800,000 houses because we have to drop those lot prices up. The cost of the infrastructure going in, because when you have 20 lots versus 40, if you make them the size you want, you still got to use up all the land. And so, then the price gets, now we're so far over the market because if you look and you notice, how many homes sell for $700,000 or $800,000? I know, not many.
More than you'd think.
Yeah.
I'd like to know that information too.
I can get that because there's
I would
not
like
that many.
No, I would like to see that information in the average house sold in Fairfield, how long the houses in Fairfield are on the market. I know in Harris Acres, I don't know much about Fairfield, no offense. I know in Harris Acres, they're gone. There are homes being sold for $500,000 right now in Harris Acres, and people are putting $200,000 in them to strip them and redo them. So that's $700,000 they have invested already in Harris Acres in a smaller home. So I guess I just don't understand why I get that maybe 20 parcels isn't particularly available or or not able to do it. But it seems to me that I'd like to have more information on this. I think that the public deserves more information on this.
Oh, we can get you on. We can get you how many homes. We can break out between 300,000 and 2 million and show you how many homes. We have all
And
that
I also would say to you, you can look at the homes being sold in Harris Acres. Okay, you can look at that, and that's fine about the homes. But you're not looking at the renovations these people are doing in these homes. I live in Willowbrook. Okay,
Yeah.
we decided instead of purchasing a house, because I love Harris Acres, I'd love to live in Harris Acres, but we don't have the money to go out and buy a home for $500,000 that's smaller than what we have in Willowbrook, and then renovate it for $200,000. Then we don't have that. So I would submit to you that you need to look at this information as well. Because if these houses are being sold and people are spending $700,000 or $800,000, whatever they're spending to do this, I would submit to you that maybe you're missing some of the market. And I think I do think the public has a right to see this information.
Well, yeah, I mean, part of when you're saying that, the renovations also occur when the affordability of a new home gets out of whack.
I would submit to
get
you that the houses in Harris Acres selling for $500,000 is probably a fair price. They've got a larger lot size, and they've got a house that perhaps is not up. There's this from the 70s. Okay, so if people are actually doing this, and this is happening today, and I know that they're not lasting on the market. This is happening today. I submit that this is very important information when you look at what you're planning for your development, and you look at what this development is up against, and you look at the traffic problems, and you look at some different things. I just submit to you that it might be better to take some of this information, take a look at what people are spending to renovate these homes as well, and look at what kind of money is in that area and what kind of money people are spending to do these things.
I can get new home information. I don't know how many people are renovating for 200,000. I don't know how to, that part, I guess you could go to code. And they
I
probably
think
have
that you can
some,
see a
but
lot.
that
You
I
can
don't know.
you can go straight to us and look at what information we have
Well,
as far as people applying for permits.
Yeah, and if you have that, that would help us a lot. No, yeah, so if you have that, because I don't have that. So
Well, I
if
think
you-
Todd has all that information for you.
Oh.
He should have
okay.
all the information of what people are,
I don't,
If it's something taking place inside of the home, it
yeah,
wouldn't go
I don't,
through
yeah,
zoning, code issue.
Okay, thank you.
yeah, it's not saying code, but I don't, yeah.
The difference in doing 24 versus 40 is half the sewer hookup cost,
Right.
half the water hookup cost. What's the sewage permit now cost? 6,000?
They're expensive, yeah, so it's.
Water
yeah,
permits
yeah.
about 3,000?
Yeah, yep, permits are high.
You do 20 versus 49, there's a big difference savings right there.
And I'm also not
Yeah, it's
saying
all right.
that 20 is the number, or, what is the number that would, basically accommodate you and maybe accommodate also your neighbors? And maybe these things really need to be looked at, because I just don't think that housing sales are something to be stood by, especially in Harris Acres. I think that you really need to take a better look at what's going on in that community.
We should let some other people make some comments here.
Hi, I'm John Erickson. We're at 127 South Outer Drive. So we're not over here. We're on the other side of the development. South Outer, yeah, we're right there. That's us. And our concern, well, we love Harris Acres, and a lot of people do. Harris Acres, and we're including a lot of Fairfield people too, but what I struck by with listening to presentations tonight is, and what the main concerns are of people, is the compatibility. The development here with a 1/4 acre for 49 different homes, 49, a quarter acre each, just isn't compatible. It's not the same as Fairfield and Harris Acres. And I think that's probably the main concern that a lot of people have with this proposal. So the compatibility problem, I guess, and I wonder if, and again, if S&A Homes has it's just going to be how it's going to be. There's nothing in terms of ordinances or anything else that you can do. And again, God bless Randy for all the years that he's left that, and there's all the enjoyment that our kids, my kids who are now grown and have their own kids, all they've had over the years in that is just wonderful. So yes, it's going to be sold. It's got to be developed in some way. So for the issue of compatibility, I wonder if there's some way to segregate that a little bit more. Now, as I'm hearing it tonight, the traffic patterns that are proposed for this development are horrible. To come here, and you talk about access to Singletown Road, that's it, right there. Why are you worried about it over here if it's going to people are going to come out and that's where it's going to be? Either that or they're going to be coming out the two driveways out here, Outer Drive, then you're going to be coming through Harris Drive. That's a residential, this isn't a thoroughfare here, that's a residential street. And you're going to end up at Atherton. That's where everybody's going to go. People now from Fairfield, where are we here? Go east Outer Drive, over here to, yeah, the stop sign here, and then they go, and that's busy enough as it is, but you stick 49, let's say 49 units there, that's a lot of traffic through the neighborhoods. That's a lot of traffic. So those are my considerations. Value of homes here, as I understand it, people wait. And Harris Acres at any rate, and I don't know about Fairfields quite so much, but Mindy is always telling us, these things come on the market and they go pretty quick. Whether they're only 1,800 square feet versus the 2,900 or 2,800 that S&A Homes is proposing for 2 levels, yeah. But any rate, so segregation. So that's a traffic pattern consideration. So I don't know. Compatibility is an important concept, though. I noticed on the plans that you have a nature area in here, or what I forget what it was called. This isn't, yeah, okay.
It's parkland.
Parkland. So the parkland is all the way down here. I wonder if there could be some way to use this parkland to buffer on on the drive, Outer Drive here, or from Fairfield to segregate. If you're not going to be compatible with these developments, this is not a Harris Acres or Fairfield development. If there's some way to segregate, maybe take advantage of this parkland to come up here and buffer it a bit. What's this? A drain? Stormwater. Okay. Can you stick that somewhere else? And the Fairfield folks were talking about their drain field here. Can you combine that? Is there some way to buffer this a little bit more, so that if you're not going to be compatible with Harris Acres and Fairfield, and there's nothing any of us can do about it, can you design that different?
So there's no entrance through Harris Acres or exit?
Well, there's going to be a little bit of flow that way, but certainly it shouldn't just depend on going through those residential streets. That's a lot of traffic. Yeah. That's a lot of traffic. So again, to buffer it, okay, you want your development, go ahead, have it over there, but buffer it a little bit.
Stay out of ours.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so we can maintain the characteristics of Fairfield and Harris Acres to a greater degree. And get your traffic out here. Why are we worried about making an entrance there when everybody's going to come out of Fairfield to that even worse entrance to Shingletown Road? All right, that's all I got. So.
Good evening. I promise I'll be brief. My name is Emily Ayton Newberry. I live at 1306 Outer Drive. So I live right beside Sharon and Greg, and I live across the street from Will. And so our youngest kids are actually born on the same day. And so we've talked a lot about traffic safety with the main roads. We've talked about cyclists, we've talked about runners, we've talked about being in the woods, which is very important, but we go on walks a lot of the time. I'm pushing my stroller. I have a 9.5-year-old as well, and we don't have sidewalks, we don't have lamp posts, and being able to see in our neighborhood is really hard. And adding 250 cars going through, even if it's just coming in, you know, Outer Drive, is still really concerning. The safety of my kids is, of course, very important. I feel like our neighborhood is a little bit split with young families and then also a lot of retirees who are also out walking and trying to, you know, be healthy. And so I think supporting the fact that we're trying to just make sure everyone is safe with an extra separate entrance, not just entrance, but entrance and exit off of 45, I think would be really great, in addition to everything else everybody else has said. All right, thank you.
Hi, I'll be very brief. Chris Danford. I live at 419 Outer Drive, 4-year resident of Harris Acres. Yeah, just very similar to what she was just saying, but just to say that there seem to be more and more families moving in every year to these neighborhoods as there is turnover from retirees leaving, more and more young children in these neighborhoods with no sidewalks and no lights. So this is my major concern. I also have 2 children. I'm very, very worried about that. And yes, also just wanted to voice that the idea of having an additional exit or entrance from this specific development that does not intersect with, doesn't limit us to the existing exits, entrances from 1 to 45 and 322, that would probably help. But the density of houses, again, is, to me, just mind-blowing. Crazy amount of traffic. Thank you.
Go ahead. I'll just sit right here. Can't save myself.
Hi. Welcome. I'm Diane Farr, and I'm not representing Park and Rec, but I'm on Park and Rec. I think one thing you might be interested in knowing is that 4-acre park, the builder has a choice between giving money or giving parkland. So in your thoughts about how you would like to see it developed, that is something that you might want to consider. So my comment, and I believe if I understand what you were saying, is that you were thinking possibly about a road through the parkland, or at least adjacent to it. I have a little bit of concern because your whole entire area on 45 has no park. I mean, we have 7 parks, and this would be the 8th park, but I think you may want to consider the fact that you've got, for all these wonderful children I'm hearing, you don't have any park play area for them. So what I am concerned about is the density, the fact that they're going to be young parents, more or less, most likely, with more children, that I'm hearing about children now, and you're going to have small properties. where Fairfield and Harris Acres have large properties that can afford to, can support some play equipment. These are not going to be able to support play equipment. I think it's going to be harder to have play equipment. So, you know, it's a toss-up. You know, as to whether you think the parkland is important or whether the money that the builder can give to the township in place of the parkland. And if that parkland wasn't there, would that give you less dense building lots? Just think about it.
I'm Sharon Phillips, Greg's wife, and we live right, well, here. And can I see the one with the green on it, the other, yeah, this. So one of the things that makes Harris Acres and Fairfield really nice places to live are all these trees. So what kind of trees are you going to have? Street trees over there? I mean, you've got big houses on small lots, but what kind of greenery are you going to have?
So I just introduced myself for the mic so the camera can see. My name is Tom Jacobs. I'm the Land Operations Director for S&A Homes. Going back to Will, I believe. Going through, I've heard kind of rumors. I have friends that live in the neighborhood in Harris Acres. They mentioned that you were working, and there was a lot of concern in the community with both preservation, stormwater concern, obviously traffic. We hear all that. The design that was put together is simply a concept. But to get directly to your question regarding trees, so there's not an actual specific requirement in the Saldo in Harris Township for street trees. However, we make it a practice in all of our communities to include street trees, you know, just to match. We think it looks good, you know, as soon as it gets established, gets them in the front. In addition to that, in the corridor overlay district, which a portion of this parcel is, comes, I believe, Todd might correct me if I'm wrong, 660 feet off of 45. So with that overlay district, there's a requirement for tree conservation. So that's why we planned the 4-acre parkland. But beyond that, anywhere inside that buffer zone, from the center of 45, trees have to be conserved or re-established within the community. So beyond the fact that those trees will remain, the gentleman, I didn't jot his name down, Chris, I believe, mentioned buffer yard and conservation requirements or suggested conservation requirements around the exterior of the community. You can see the community has, you know, some of them quite small now. I'm in the shadow. You know, 11 sides with the 12th being outer drive. It is our intent within the design process to keep any mature trees that we can around the entire perimeter of the property, except obviously we have to tie in utilities along outer drive. So of the 12 boundary parcels, boundary lines around the parcel, it's our intent to leave 8 of them fully tree lined and 3 remaining at least partially tree lined. So the real only clear boundary that we're proposing in our design process is the frontage along this section of outer drive. So we're proposing to leave mature growth around this entire, well, except for where the road comes in, obviously, around this entire perimeter of the parcel.
Okay, so I can tell you that a lot of these trees in here are old and half dead, the big trees. A lot of the rest of this that is in there is junk bushes. So when you get in there and you start clearing stuff out, I'm afraid that you're going to find there's not a lot of usable trees, or if they are, they're not going to be in a space that you could use them. If you did something like, you know, a row of green giant arborvitae that grow fast, they're cheap, you can get them out at Wheatfield, and build a buffer with those along the places where you're trying to give a little space between your development and the other developments. Good for noise, good for sight. So something like that along those boundaries, I think would be helpful.
Yeah, I don't want to continue jumping.
Nope.
over, but
Nope.
To that regard, we have places where there's things like scrub oaks or garbage birch, or you now have all the ash trees dying where they're really dead. Most municipalities have, in this particular situation, I didn't read every letter of the ordinance. I'm sure there's probably a list or an established set of plantings that count for the requirements for reestablishment of any trees that are taken down within that corridor overlay district. So naturally, whatever, if there is areas that doesn't come, and we do restore, we would obviously just have to comply with what's in the ordinance. I can't speak to exactly what it is, what is in it, but that's.
And I know now, especially in the borough, that they're working on having different trees, so that if one dies, you're not going to lose all of them. So there is a list of that that's available. But anyway, as long as there's something there that's going to be between, and I would not count on the trees that are the existing trees to be usable.
Yeah, so it is 100% being considered, and 100% the intention is to have either maintain or retain mature growth, or use the reestablishment of some of the areas that would be taken down for the right-of-ways to start new growth along the boundaries.
Okay, thanks.
Hi, my name's Gary Giddings. I live at 313 Fairfield, so that's here we are. Thank you for again having us and allowing us to make a presentation, raise some of the concerns. I didn't know that a person I've known for over 50 years has such a good sense of humor. Harmony is it's pretty good, Greg. I like it. It seems like we're drifting towards a compromise, which I think hope is apparent. If you reduce the concerns about density, doesn't address your concern about the housing, which I agree is a national problem, but I'm not sure we're going to solve that here. If you reduce the acreage, or if you increase from the proposal, the size of the parcel from what has been proposed or sketched out to about 0.35 to 0.4, and consider 25 to 30 homes in that area, change the parkland to home acreage ratio a little bit, require about 10 acres, 10 and a half acres to 11 acres for homes, about 7 acres for parkland. Seems like kind of drifted in that direction. Working those numbers, what do you come up with? That's what maybe people would like to see. Financially, what does that look like? Thanks.
Hello, my name is David Letterman, and we've lived in Fairfield for 37 years. We're one of the original homes in there, and we live right here in the corner. And we love Fairfield, so much so that instead of trying to find a house like you were talking about, buying a house and dumping a ton of that's already really high price and dumping money into it, that we decided to reinvest into our own home with the equity we have. So I don't think that with the housing sizes or pricing that you're proposing, Bob, is not really fitting within the development of Harris Acres and Fairfield. And that's all I had to say. I just wanted to say that these communities have been wonderful for my kids and my grandkids now, and we just really like how quiet and how laid back the community is.
Okay. Anybody else for comments? All right.
Mindy Sable. I'm a partner at Kissinger, Bigetel, and Brower Builders. I live at 200 East Hubler Road in Harris Acres. So, Tracy, thanks. You're absolutely right. Harris Acres and Fairfield have been coveted neighborhoods for, I've been there 17 years. It's the reason we moved there. We wanted a bigger lot with a house that we could fix up, which is exactly what we did. We bought it for, under 400,000 17 years ago. And just because I know what my house is worth, it's closer to 600 now. So, Bob, I'm also the realtor that's been selling out Winfield Heights, which is the lower level of Stearns Crossing. Those acreages per lot, somewhere between 0.38 and 0.6 probably, have sold out the first 2 phases 3 years quicker than we thought. And there are 5 approved builders in that neighborhood, which is a lot different than many of the other neighborhoods that didn't have that. And to get into Winfield, it's about $1 million because of the square footage requirements, which is 2,400 square feet above grade, and the lot costing somewhere between $150,000 and $200,000. That's what it costs to build in there. Phase 2 is coming online as of January 1st, and those lots will be closer to 200 to 225 per lot for the 0.4 to 0.6, 0.7 of an acre lot. And my projection is that it'll take less than 2 years to sell it out. So there are people out there that can effectively afford to buy a bigger lot and put whatever house they want. Sure, there are a lot less houses that sell for $1 million in State College. Absolutely true. But what we're finding is the average home sale price in State College School District is somewhere between I haven't done it lately, but $430,000 to $450,000. That is our average sales price. Most places are somewhere around $250,000, $275,000, depending on where you live in Pennsylvania. So I do believe there is a market for bigger home sites that would definitely enhance your property as well as not conflict with ours. And traffic patterns, everybody's already talked about it, but my kids are older and I was always concerned about the fact that we had no sidewalks, but my yard was big enough that I could put them in the back and have enough space for them to play, and it doesn't seem that's the case, the new development proposal. Thank you.
Good job. All right, yeah. Well, I think all those comments were quite constructive in coming up with ideas and possibilities, and I have some others myself. I mean, there's an opportunity to preserve some more green space here, possibly through a grassroots fundraising deal that happened for the Yoder Preserve. It's the entire tract, but in this case, it looks like it might work at a different level where you could negotiate with the developer to add some more green space by coming up with some money to offset his losses for doing that. So I suggest maybe people think about that, and again, always room for negotiation. So.
Thank you, Bob, for coming.
Yeah. Thanks, Bob. And
thank you to residents.
Thank you, everybody else. And
thank you, Randy. Randy, it's been great. Thank you.
We would welcome this size crowd at all of our monthly meetings.
Yeah. I'm guessing a lot of you aren't interested in staying for the rest of the agenda, so we can pause a minute or two and allow the mass exodus to happen.
Preemptive strike. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Let me say, Bob,
Okay, well, let's get back to business here, so we're not here all night. So next on the agenda is the Dunkelberger Farm final subdivision plan.
On November 5th of this year, staff received from Ed Dunkelberger a final subdivision plan for his 58-acre property in Linden Hall. The plan, prepared by HRG Incorporated, proposes 5 lots of at least 10 acres in size with access to Hauser Road and Brush Valley Road. All lots will be served by private water and on-lot septic services. The preliminary plan for this project was approved by the Board of Supervisors 5 years ago. One review of the plan was completed, and copies of those reviews were included in the agenda, as well as a copy of the plan, which is also on the board behind you. A few comments remain, but staff believes they can be addressed in a timely manner. Staff's recommendation is to move to approve the Dunkelberger Farm final subdivision plan contingent upon satisfactory completion of the comments from the November 15, 2024 letter of the zoning officer, the November 19, 2024 memo of the Center Regional Planning Agency, and November 21st, 2024 letter of the Township Engineer.
So moved. Second.
Can I ask you a question?
Well, of course.
No, you can't.
No. Okay, so recently we've all heard about some issues with the private water coming in, with
what coming in?
private water coming in, water, yeah, from Philadelphia. Private water coming in, and
Like Aquapine, you mean?
no, we've heard some issues with private, not in this township, and private water coming in, and not having fire hydrants funded with water. Is this something that we're concerned about, or is this something that is not our bag or a deal, or?
No, it is our deal. Our ordinance requires that when you're outside the water service area and you're proposing development, you have to do one of two things. You have to provide one or more 4,000-gallon water storage tanks for fire protection, or you have to require on your subdivision plan that any property developed with habitable structures has to have fire suppression sprinkler system. In this particular case, the sprinkler system is called for on the plan.
Thank you. I remember that somewhere along the way, but thanks.
So in this case, they would propose how many 4,000-gallon tanks? One per?
None. The option they chose is a sprinkler system for each dwelling or habitable structure that would be built.
I have a question. And lot 1, the road goes through lot 1, correct?
That's correct. Hauser Road goes through.
Yes. Now I see you have outlined for building on. Can they build on both sides of that road, or they still only build one on there? Because you have it set out so they can technically build on both sides. Is that something that we would restrict, or
no.
They can build? They could have 2 homes on there.
Well, if they propose, if anybody who owns that property now or in the future propose to put a second home on the property, that would trigger the land development plan, so they would be back before you folks.
All right. So right now, the way it is, they would build on one side or the other.
They could, with just going through the zoning process.
One or the other. They can't do both.
And there currently is a home on the right-hand side of that road.
There is.
And a horse barn on the left-hand side.
Yeah, you could have an outbuilding on the other side of the road, right?
Sure. Yeah.
I'm talking about
Not
home.
a
I was talking about a
residence,
home.
Yeah.
Residence.
My question to Todd was the use the word intermittent water flow. You see that sort of hedge section? That's it's a water flow that either comes from a spring or it comes from the mountain flow. And I'm wondering if we need to deal with a riparian buffer on that piece, on that where that stream is.
Yeah, it's actually marked on the plan that is riparian buffer, or I think it was the riparian buffer regulations were in effect at the time the preliminary plan went through.
Which requires the post put in and stay for 3 years and.
Yeah, posted every 50 feet and it changes of directions on both sides of the buffer.
Was Dunkelberger agreeable to that riparian issue?
Yeah, I had some conversations with him and we talked about it, and he's gonna put up markers.
Because that's the only one that has any flowing water. I've seen that water running over Brush Valley Road, through Tommy Arner's yard, through Molly Hickey's yard, and down into Cedar Run. It flows that heavy when it really, really rains. Okay.
Anybody else? All right, well,
They all meet the 10 acre size, don't they?
we have a motion and a second, and it seems like discussion is over, so I'll call the question. All in favor of approving this subdivision plan, say aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous, thank you. All right, proposed ordinance 372, permitting indoor recreational facilities in the general commercial and industrial zoning district. So we had a public hearing on this earlier. We don't have to read the whole blurb, I don't think, so, again, so I'd entertain a motion to approve this.
I'll make a motion to pass ordinance 372, permitting indoor recreational facilities in general commercial and general industrial zone districts.
Second.
I have a question.
Any more
I have
discussion?
a question. If they are no longer looking to establish a location in Harris Township, are we putting ourselves a little bit of risk if by moving forward with this ordinance until we get another request? Or is this something that everybody is comfortable with?
We did get another request.
Oh, we did?
Yeah,
Did I
from the
miss
owners of
something?
the property.
Yeah, the owners requested
Oh,
that
okay.
even
Oh,
though
okay.
the developer wasn't moving forward, they
I'm
felt
sorry.
it'd be valuable to have it done.
This was read to me in the car.
It opens his opportunity
I
to
couldn't
attract
describe it. I missed
someone
that.
out there.
It's okay.
Marketing.
It makes sense. We want.
Yes, I totally get it
We
now.
want to have as many opportunities as possible to fit.
No, I understand
the-
that, but I just wanted to ask the question.
Mhm. Okay.
Where does Senator Deed go? Does he back off of this one?
I don't know that we've heard where they've decided to locate. They just said that this was no longer on their list of options.
You know, I had a call from somebody whose kids, I guess, goes out there asking us, why did we turn them down? And I said, we didn't turn them down. So I don't know if they know what they're doing yet or not.
Well, I thought it was more timely than we could offer.
I don't know if that's what it was.
Not sure. But we moved this pretty quick.
Maybe, I mean, this is, we got right to this. Anyway.
It was super
well,
fast for us.
Yeah. Well, let's keep this moving. So, assuming there are no more questions, discussion, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous. Well, now we have another big discussion. Solar power purchase agreement.
Okay, so at the November 13th, 2024 meeting, the Solar Power Purchase Agreement Working Group reviewed and finalized contracts and documents related to the PPA and provided an overview of the approval process. The working group indicated that approval should be completed by December 31st, understanding that some entities may not be able to act until January. At the September 9th meeting, the Board of Supervisors voted to pay outstanding legal fees related to the project and to discontinue its participation in the PPA. The board discussed the PPA again at the September 25th meeting, receiving a presentation from Pam Adams, CRPA Sustainability Planner. No decision on rejoining the project was made at that time, but several board members indicated that the decision should be made after the finalized contracts are received. The PPA is a 15-year contract with the developer that will construct I was told today it's about an 18 megawatt array in Center County. The PPA provides a fixed rate for electricity committed for purchase, with any remaining electricity usage billed at the market rate, which is variable. While the PPA supports the development of a local solar project, power purchased through the PPA is not considered green energy, so participation in the PPA alone cannot be considered towards the township's 2017 resolution to achieve net zero greenhouse gas emissions as soon as feasible. The township would need to separately purchase renewable energy credits, or RECs, for its electricity usage to meet clean energy goals. The decision to buy RECs can be made on an annual basis. Now that the contracts for the SPPA have been finalized, the board should consider whether it would like to participate in the project. And there is a list of documents here in the agenda that were provided to the board digitally in advance of the meeting. If the board chooses to participate, it should also determine the percentage of power it would like to purchase from the PPA during the 15-year contract period. Prior to the board's action at the September 9th meeting, the township had committed to purchasing 67% of current energy usage from the PPA. The working group is recommending that participating entities select purchase commitments of 60, 80, or 90%. The agenda includes an attachment from the working group that illustrates potential cost scenarios based upon these tiers. And Larry Pegger, who is on the working group, is online. And I believe Larry's going to share a PowerPoint with you and may be able to hopefully answer any questions you may have.
Yeah, I'm going to share, first of all, I won't take it personally that everybody left the meeting room before I spoke. But I'm going to share an update of what Pam had shared in your September meeting. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, so we can just breeze through it and then we can open it up for any questions and discussions that you guys have. So give me a second here to pull it up. Sorry.
Slow cable to hook up in Patton Township.
He's down in Reedsville.
Oh, okay.
Okay, can everybody see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. So, just to start with today's discussion, we're going to discuss the document package and the cost and rate projections. So the document package, as you know, is we have a PPA with the solar developer Prospect 14. That contract is for 15 years. The entities will receive a percentage of the electricity that is generated by the solar farm, and the PPA price is fixed with a 1% escalator per year over the 15 years. The remaining amount, if you choose 60, obviously the remaining is 40%, 80, it's 20%, etc. That direct energy will be coming, or that energy will be coming through direct energy. The contract with direct energy is for 5 years. We're going to go out every 5 years during this contract and renegotiate the process that direct energy is going to do for us, which includes managing the solar distribution. They're going to receive the solar energy and they're going to transmit the solar energy to the individual parties. And like I said, this is for the energy usage. It's not covered by the solar generation. And depending on how you handle it with direct energy, it will either be at a fixed price that you negotiate with direct energy, which is what you do currently with your energy provider, or it would be left at the market price. The third portion of it is the energy services that are provided by Green Sky, which is our current broker that we're using. The contract would be for 6 years. We're using them to monitor the PPA to make sure Prospect 14 is invoicing us correctly, to make sure direct energy is invoicing us correctly, and to do periodic reviews of the charges and the generation. The PPA contracts, so the first three that you see there, the Commodity Master Agreement, the transaction, the first two, the Commodity Masters Agreement and the Transaction Confirmation, are something that currently Harris Township would be signing. That's what you would sign with your broker with your current electric contract. The three other contracts, they're the new ones. The first one being the actual power purchase agreement, I'm sorry, that's the last one, the master purchase power agreement with Prospect 14. Direct Energy, we would have a servicing agreement with them so they could receive the energy and distribute it to us. And we need to have a tri-party agreement between us, Direct Energy, and Prospect 14 so that we all work together and we all know what our individual responsibilities are. So in the group of documents that you should have received or that are on the SharePoint at COG, there's a closing checklist which has the outline of all the documents, and there's a board resolution which would authorize, it says ED to sign, but it would authorize whoever you wanted to sign. And in case at Patton Township, for instance, we're using the township manager, Amy Farkas, would sign it on our behalf. There's also an MOU between everybody in the group, which will discuss the history and what the ongoing relationship of the group's going to be. And then there's an ongoing consulting agreement that we talked about before with Green Sky. The cost of rate projections. So this is a list of everybody that's currently in there, plus Harris Township. You will see that Harris Township with Rex, if you chose 60%, your total cost would be $1,695 for the whole project. Your total rate, which is the rate of the PPA plus distribution charges, the cost for Rex, all the other, the charge for Direct Energy to handle the energy, to charge for Green Sky, to monitor the contracts, would come out at 7.9. In year 15, with the 1.5% escalator, that would be 9.3 cents. So in year one, you would have a savings of $81. Your average annual savings would be $297. The total projected savings over the course of the 15 years would be $4,453, which would give you a payback of 8 to 9 years. This is comparing to a current rate of electricity of 8 cents per kilowatt hour in year one, escalated by 1.5% annually. The reason why the lower your commitment, the closer you are to the actual current market rate, and if you add Rex, you're closer. That's why if you look at Center Hall Potter's Sewer Authority, who also is at 60%, they're only at 7.6 cents a kilowatt hour because they don't have to have Rex, or they choose not to have Rex. They're not going to go out and use this towards their goals of reaching carbon neutrality. This is a graph that shows the dotted red line is the current market plus starting at 8 cents plus the 1.5% escalator. The blue bars are the prices from the PPA, plus I should have added, plus it includes the 40% that you're going to buy at market. So that's why you see in year one it's 7.9 cents a kilowatt hour. The blue shading shows that, you know, the market rate can go up and down. So it's hard to say whether whether we're gonna save exactly this, are we gonna save more, are we gonna save less? It all depends on what the market does, but the market can go up and down. This graph shows if you chose 80% with RECs, you'll see that that drops your 7.9 cents in year one down to 7.6 cents. Of course, the market rate remains at 8 cents. And you can see in here that the gap is much higher where you're saving more money. The key takeaways of joining the power purchase group would be it would lock in your energy prices. You wouldn't be subject to the market as much, depending on how much you decide to commit. There's projected savings over the life of the project, and building the solar array diversifies the grid and reduces emissions. And with that, I will partake in any discussions or answer any questions.
Board members?
I would like to have some elaboration on why power purchased through the PPA is not considered green energy.
Say that again?
I'd like to have some elaboration on why.
That our power is coming from a solar farm that we helped build, but we cannot say that we are using green energy because it goes to the grid and then comes to us. So
electrons are fungible.
Yes, it's like water.
So, Larry, if I may, I thought one of the other points that came up, I think, from the working group was there was a decision made to allow the developer to retain the renewable energy credits that generated from the facility, because they can use them here in Pennsylvania for compliance purposes, whereas we can buy RECs from the Midwest where they maybe don't have renewable energy targets.
Correct.
And that was
that
one of
is
the
also
reasons.
Correct, Mark. Yeah. So we chose to let Prospect 14 maintain the RECs because not everybody needed RECs, and especially the school district doesn't need RECs. If you look at the school district, their number doesn't include RECs. So by allowing Prospect 14 to hold the RECs, that lowered the price on the PPA, and also gives us the ability to go out and buy RECs from anywhere in the United States, as opposed to just RECs on the JPM grid, which traditionally have been significantly higher than the cost of RECs across the rest of the United States. So our rate, even with RECs, is less than it would have been had we maintained the RECs and Prospect 14 charged us the higher rate.
Are you sure of those REC prices over the 15 years? What's the projected increase in the cost of the REC prices across the United States over the next 15 years?
Well, of course, we can't be sure what the cost of the REC prices are going to be over the next 15 years.
But you projected all these.
We can't be sure of the electric prices over the next 15
But you projected all these, you have all these projections, but you don't have the projection of the cost of the REC prices across the country.
We do have a projection for the cost of the REC prices, but that projection is what it is today, plus 1.5% every year.
So what happens after 15 years?
So after 15 years, we have the ability to walk away or sign an extension. There's two options, 2 5-year options. So we could sign a 5-year extension option, and then after that 5 years, sign another one. It all depends. But those options would be with the 1.5% escalator.
So if we find that this project is not exactly what we thought it would be, as far as pricing is concerned, or what's happening in the United States with electric prices, when we decide to walk away from this property, who recycles this? Who takes?
That's up to Prospect 14.
Exactly,
We
it
cannot
is,
do
no,
anything.
but is it not a concern when we're sitting here saying that we want renewable energy, and we want this, and we want that? Isn't that a concern to us, that in fact that those panels, are not really, I mean, they're not being recycled, they're not being renewed, they're not being anything, they're just kind of being chucked? And now we have to think about what we use.
I'm not saying, I think it would be, if it would be in Prospect 14 or whoever owns it in 15 years. I'm not gonna say that Prospect 14 doesn't sell it off between now and 15
But it
years
doesn't,
from now.
then what's the
But
new
it would
buyer
be
gonna
to
do?
their advantage as business owners to not walk away from an asset that could generate income.
And panels are now being recycled.
Are they?
Yeah.
Yes.
There's a company in Louisiana that's doing major recycling of panels.
And what's the percentage of panels that are being recycled?
Pardon?
What's the percentage of panels that are being recycled?
I can't tell, I don't know that.
Because my guess is if it's just one company in Louisiana, my guess is not too many.
At least it's a start.
But that doesn't make our energy completely carbon neutral. We have to consider that that's not carbon neutral exactly.
So I guess my question would be, what would you suggest? Because
I have no suggestions.
you have the same argument if you're buying
That's
solar through a broker or you're buying wind through a broker, because a lot of the stuff in the windmills aren't recycled either. And so, is your recommendation to buy brown energy?
No, but I think that we have to consider, we're talking about this wonderful project and everything, and that's fine and dandy. We have to consider what impact we're having. What exactly, if we're looking to be carbon neutral or quote green, what in fact is the impact of this as well? If everything was being
Well, I guess
recycled.
I'm looking at it in that I can buy solar from going out to a broker, which I just did this week, and they came back with 8.96 cents per kilowatt hour, okay, for solar. Or I can buy solar from this solar farm for in my case, 7.6 cents. And as a finance director, I'm gonna recommend, because both of them's buying solar, both of them have a problem with they're coming from a solar grid or a solar farm. Both of them have the same environmental impacts. I'm gonna buy the cheaper of the two energies for my township. So that's where, if it were the other way around, where, I could tell you, to be honest with you, 5 years ago when I started in this, I was paying 4.6 cents a kilowatt hour, and they were telling me to join this was gonna cost me 6 cents, and I said, no, I would never recommend to do that. Okay, so, but as a finance director who's looking to reduce costs, this makes sense to me right now. I understand what you're saying about being carbon neutral and stuff, but whether I buy it from a solar farm that's out, in Ohio or in Nebraska, or I buy a solar farm in Walker Township, that seems to me would have the same effect.
I have a question for you, Larry.
Sure.
So say we agree to purchase 60%, and then we come up with ways to reduce our consumption of electricity by efficiency, new street lights, for example, and maybe generate a little in solar on our own. And say, so we get our 60% from the contract, and then we come up with a 30% of our own usage. You're not going to, the contract won't make us buy the other 40% if we're coming up with our own 30%, are they?
No.
Okay.
No. What the contract will make you buy is that 60% of the solar.
Okay, so it's anything
That's
above
the
60%.
fixed portion.
So if we cut our consumption, it doesn't matter. We're going on that 60%.
As long as you don't cut your consumption less than 60%.
Right, okay.
If you got it to 50%, then you're gonna have 10% you're gonna be buying and selling on the market.
Right, okay. All right, thanks.
That's one of the reasons why my township they had originally said 100%, but we dropped to 80, because I explained to them that if you say 100%, and then we decide to do a small solar array on top of our public works building, then we're still going to be on the hook for the 100%. So we drop back to 80 in case something happens.
Okay. Good.
You sent a summary of a communication with Finelli.
Yes, I did.
I didn't get a chance to read that because it came in late.
You're talking about this?
No, I sent an email to the board earlier today with the solicitor's review.
Oh, yes, I read that.
All right.
It's probably home on the computer.
Oh,
What did Pat, did he say anything different this time than he did 2 or 3 months ago?
He hadn't looked at it 2 or 3 months ago. He
looked at the preliminary draft.
That was back, I think, in March or February of this year.
That was in February.
Yeah. No, he didn't have anything substantially different. I think ultimately, as he pointed out, it's a business decision, kind of like Larry's talking about. It's a question of, is this where we want to buy our power from? And if the township's all right with a 15-year agreement to do that.
All right. Do you have a comment?
I don't know when it's appropriate for me to say something.
Well, you can step up to the mic, please.
All right. Yeah, so I wanted to say, well, I'm Janet Swim, and I'm in favor of the purchase power agreement. And I just wanted to say that I'm reacting to some of the things I think that what you wrote when you summarized it, and one of the questions you had, was that it said something to the effect that this does not satisfy the climate change goals. But it sounds like it does to me. It sounds like it satisfies it just as much as the current plan. So you currently buy energy from a company where that's SRECs. And so that's how you are satisfying the climate change goals, by buying these SRECs. And so if you were going here, you would have the support of actual renewable energy generation, not just SRECs. And if you didn't, and if there was extra energy that you needed beyond it, that's green sky thing, would allow you to purchase SRECs for that extra energy. So it seems like what you have, that's my understanding, and even though you can, I think what the premier question, Bruce, is you can't say we're using solar energy because it's generated and it's diffused across the grid. But that's the same thing that's true if you're buying your energy through SRECs. So it seems like it's the same thing. Is that you?
The key part about it is owning the SRECs. Okay, if like I currently go out and buy my energy for my township, it includes the RECs. Okay, so I have those RECs. But
Sorry, we've lost your
breath. I can't say that. I can't say officially that I'm. It's confusing to me too, Janet. I agree, but apparently it all boils down to who owns the RECs.
Well, yeah, I understand that, and I think it's the same thing though, that the ability to say that we are, because we're buying SRECs, we're fulfilling our obligation. It seems like it's Because we buy us, so we have solar panels and we get direct energy, and that's not what you would be doing here. You would be supporting a company that does it. So we actually get the direct energy on our solar panels. But when we use more than that, we purchase energy from a company, and I don't know if it does SREX or it's direct purchase of the energy. But it seems like this is actually a better way to fulfill the obligations that Harris Township has agreed to do than to continue with the plan of buying SREX, is my point.
I'll just point out, so the plan, or the board did have a resolution adopted back in 2017 to be carbon neutral as soon as feasibly possible. What the solar power purchase working group had put together was kind of a summary of what we could say as far as making renewable energy claims with this project. So I'm going to read this from the website on the SPPA. They're saying that we could state that we purchase solar energy through our SPPA, but sell the RECs to another party to meet our fiduciary responsibilities. The solar system is helping to green the grid in Pennsylvania, and we purchase RECs, and then it has in parentheses 100% wind power, so that we have zero scope 2 emissions for our portion of the greenhouse gas inventory, emissions inventory. So that was what the SPPA folks had recommended as language that we can state as part of the project if we participate, that we are helping to green the grid, but we are selling the RECs for fiduciary reasons, and then we're buying them elsewhere to meet our scope 2 emissions.
Yeah, but you're not, but it's indirect, right? It's still indirect. Unlike if you were supporting...
Well, sure, all the power we're getting, we don't know where it comes from, but it's indirect, and then you're paying for the RECs to try to support that production elsewhere.
Right, and it seems like you continue that with a portion of energy that's not produced by the renewable energies on these panels, and these panels are actually going to produce the energy.
But I think for us to claim that we have zero scope 2 emissions, we still have to buy RECs equal to what we use from the 60% or 80% or whatever, because we are not getting any of those RECs from this project. We are only getting a power price, a set price, that we cannot claim as zero scope 2 emissions according to my reading of what's here on the website. Now, Larry, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's how I've understood it.
I agree with you.
Okay.
I also have solar panels on the roof of my house, and I sell my RECs off for fiduciary reasons. If you want to say, I sell them because, it's worth some money to me to sell them. It helps offset the cost of my energy. But I could certainly hold on to those RECs here at my house. But you're exactly right. Because we chose to have Prospect 14 hold on to the RECs, those of us who have those carbon neutral goals are going to have to buy RECs from someplace else. And our thought process of it will work out this way is that those RECs will be cheaper per kilowatt hour than we would have paid Prospect 14 for the electricity and the RECs.
I'll say for me, this is not about the money. We purchase green energy, go on the market, and pay a little bit more, but that's okay because it's the right thing to do. And it's not going to break the bank for the township. One was the process was poorly managed, and that was why in our meeting I wanted to send that message. The fact that the legal costs, we were told were $8,000, and ended up being what, $280,000 or something like that. I mean, an analogy I use is if I hired someone to remodel my bathroom, they said it's $8,000, and so they told me it was going to cost me $280,000 to do the remodeling, I'd be a little upset. Mm-hmm. So it was poorly managed. The information's been poorly communicated. I think we've sent that message. So now is this the smart way to do it, and is it going to be managed well from this point going forward? And a little nervous about that. I'm a little nervous about the price projections because the cost of solar energy has been going down. And we got a 1.5% escalation. We are 100% green energy in the township already. So it's, do we want to go this route or do we want to go on our own? But again, I'm committed to the carbon neutral goal of the township. It's just, is this going to be the best way for us to do it?
I will agree with Bruce on everything he just said, and my concern is also the management. And looking at the contract, I mean, I sat here and did some numbers on these frequently asked questions. You know, one thing is, let's say for argument's sake, they don't get operational before June 31st, 2027. We're locking this township and our future supervisors until 2042 on this agreement. So that's one thing that concerns me, is going out that far on this agreement. The other thing is Direct Energy will then become our sole provider for rates for all the energy we do, the 40% and everything like that. So we're basically creating a monopoly with them, which I don't like that. Project 14 can sell and get out of this deal somewhere down along the road, but we can't. Why can they have a get out of jail free card and we don't? So there's a lot of things like that. Then you come down to the fact that State College Area School District is going to be the person that's the contact and do the management of this. And we all know, if you've lived in this area long enough to know, State College School District has lost us a ton of money over the years just by not paying attention. And so to this point, it's not about solar at this point for me. It's not about, I can do green, I can do all this without this contract. I can't live with this contract. The more I read it, the more it's the contract, guys. It has nothing to do, and everybody's so moored with solar that they're overlooking good business decisions. If you looked, we could save $300 a year. Well, I'll pay $300 a year if that's what I've got to do to keep green, without going into a contract that's going to lock me in and could cost me more down the road. That's the concern I have. And let's say for argument's sake, well, it's already happening. 3 Mile and starting up again. You know where that energy's going? It's going to AI. They're putting an AI facility in, and they're going to build that reactor to feed that AI facility because of how much power it takes. And that's what you're going to see. I'm going to bet money that in the next 10 to 20 years, you're going to see more nuclear power plants come on board, and they are much cleaner and much greener and they don't take up farmland. So, like I said, I just don't like the agreement, and I don't want to be locked in for 15 years, and I don't want to lock anybody coming behind me on this board in for 15 years. So that's where I'm at on it.
I agree with that, and I'm also having trouble with the economics of it.
Well, I think that I still come down that it is green. It is a greener alternative to me in action. And I don't know the contract like you all do. I haven't seen the contract. But when I look at what was today presented, it actually is saving money, and you'd save more if you went 80%. You would be better off doing 80%.
But you don't
And
know
then
that.
also the trust in the contract. I think that they've been responsive. What I've seen, I saw the original presentation at the school board, and I've seen it. Reports that you've heard, and I've seen it here today, that they actually have been responsive to your concerns. And so I think it's good management, and it's my sense of it. And whether there's nuclear or not nuclear, I think that's independent of this decision.
Well,
as
far as you're responsive, I'll answer that question.
Well, I'm not done saying what I was going to say.
Real quick, it'll be quick, and then you can finish. We have asked at the general forum, we give them, the school district, every month, come and give us a report. Come and give us a report. They never have. So our new director said, send us a written report. They didn't even have the courtesy to do that. So that's my whole point on this. If they're going to be the ones doing it, I don't want to get in bed with them.
Well, that's independent of the nuclear stuff. I think that what I was saying, the decision about solar energy is independent of nuclear. You're going to, while we're probably going to get more nuclear, the public is going to be more receptive to renewable energy than they are to nuclear energy, and that's historically true for the last 20 to 30 years. And the risk perceptions are quite different. And so I think the decision about solar energy is independent of what's going to happen with nuclear energy. They're
I don't
both
think
gonna
that's,
increase.
I'm gonna comment on that. I don't agree. The more energy you put into the market, the lower the costs are going to go, regardless of what it is. So, wait. Things like we can in turn purchase green energy, and if more energy is going onto the market, then in fact that base energy will be less, because remember, it's fungible. It's all fungible. So as it gets more into the grid, all energy goes down in cost, and we will buy the RECs, and we will obtain the green energy also.
That to me is still separate from the public perception, risk perception about nuclear energy, and the relative support you get from the public for different forms of energy. That's different.
It does, but it doesn't. The problem is I understand that maybe the public doesn't like the nuclear energy. Maybe they don't like but the impact is still there. The impact of what happens is still there. Locking into a 15-year contract, we don't know what the RECs are going to be in the future. They say they're 1.5%. We don't know what direct energy is going to charge in the future. We didn't even look at that, what their costs are going to be, plus or minus 5%. I'm like, we didn't look at all that either. But so I'm looking at the whole thing and saying, okay, for 15 years we're locked in. I agree with the problem with that, but we really don't know.
I'm not worried about a 15-year contract in a sense of the projection, the stability of what you are being projected is actually useful in order for advancing renewable energy, to be able, for those companies to be able to advance their projects, they need some stability. And the problem we've had across the nation is the lack of stability in the investing it, pulling in, investing it, pulling in, investing it, pulling in. So actually the 15 years seems to be actually a good thing for the advancement of renewable energy.
Well, I guess I don't quite understand what you're talking about, the investment in, because the investment in, as far as I'm concerned, our investment in, we'd be purchasing the RECs. We'd have to purchase the RECs anyway with this program. So how else could we be invested in this? And if we're not purchasing the RECs, we're not invested in it. We're already purchasing.
No. She's talking about the investment of Prospect 14, who is viewed to be putting millions of dollars into upfront into putting in these solar panels.
Yes, and they're sure they're getting a lot of money back for it.
Pardon me?
And I'm sure they're getting a lot of money back because they are business and they're in business to make money.
Right, but they're not going to get a lot of money back if we pulled out in 5 years.
So what you're telling me then is if they put a solar field in, it's unsellable unless we buy it.
No, I'm not saying that.
Well, there you go. If it was a great investment, they would put it in then.
They
then it'll be there.
Deal with anybody. It doesn't have to be us.
I understand
I'm not saying that it has to be us. I'm saying that they need the stability of income to be able to pay their loan, which I'm sure they're going to borrow money to go on and build this solar farm. Just like I borrowed money to buy this house, okay? And I have a 15-year mortgage.
So Larry, let me ask you
this. Pay back money
let me ask you this question. Let me ask you this question. If you take Direct Energy or PP&L, any of the major power companies, and they want to put a new plant in, do they have to go to everybody in the township and in the county and everywhere and have them sign an agreement so that they can get their loan? No, they're going to get their loan, they're going to get the power, and they're going to sell it. So that's a good argument.
They're going to sell it to the public. They have a history of selling, Frank. I don't agree with that analogy. Yes, first of all, they're going to go to the PUC and ask for an increase in rates to help pay for that new plant. I never seen a new plant go in by Duquesne Light or West Bend Power and not seen a rate increase that goes along with it to pay for that new infrastructure. And incidentally, I just read last week that West Bend Power and Duquesne Light are looking at a 20% increase next year in their electric cost. So I cannot tell you what the electric rate is going to be in 15 years. Nobody can. I can't tell you what the electric rate's going to be tomorrow, if you want to be completely honest, because it's a commodity and it goes up and down. Just like I can't tell you what the stock price of AT&T is going to be tomorrow. It goes up and down every day, actually every hour. So nobody knows what it's going to be. We can only look at trends. And the trends are that the cost of electricity has been going up. It only went down substantially during the pandemic because natural gas rates plummeted because nobody was using any energy back then. So, but after that, if you know anything about it, it spiked to 11, 12 cents a kilowatt hour. So you can never tell what it's going to be. It's all in what you feel comfortable with as a township. I can't tell you what to do and what not to do. I only advise my township. But
a month ago, the PUC turned down a $500 million rate increase and awarded a $250 million, even 50% of what they asked for. And
yeah.
The West Penn projected energy as of last week for comparative purposes was 0.934 per kilowatt. And that is not including the $250 million increase they were given.
Right, so it's supposed to go up around 20%.
Yeah.
Next.
They're saying somewhere in the 11.5 range.
Wish we had more time.
This is tough.
Do you understand what I'm saying? There's a relevant point to bring it up.
Bring it up.
So I guess the other thing that I wonder about in entering this contract, we have a Republican president in Congress, or I'm sorry, we have a Republican starting as president in January. And typically when Republicans are in office, we see a reduction in energy costs. And our Republican president has been very vocal about doing something about the cost of energy. So I guess that kind of, you can laugh about that, but it's an economic factor and it's something that comes to mind. Whether I agree with the president or not, whether I agree with who the president is a trend. And it doesn't really matter. So I mean, you can say what you want, but that's just in my mind as well. The economics of it are something I'm looking at too. I have to, believe in the economics, and I agree with purchasing clean energy, but what's going to happen over the next 4 years? So I don't know.
I don't know about the next 4 years either, but I do know that there's projections over 15 years, and that's different than 4 years.
So what happens if we have a Republican president after the Republican president?
But I'm talking more about globally. I just came from Azerbaijan. Actually, I was at the COP meeting, where the negotiations were happening for mitigation, adaptation, and finance. The trend is towards more solar, more renewable, more wind.
The solar array that will be running this project is being approved December 17th. County Planning Commission is on our agenda to approve it, and it will go by. We've approved 2 others adjacent to the one we're doing. And ours is 105 to 110 acres. We don't know the exact panel number, but it's 110 acres with a solar panel.
So
the Refuge Authority is finishing the solar installation on our 3 buildings. 1,650 panels will generate 130% of our electricity, our annual electric bill is about 68,000. We're doing 130%, and we're selling electricity to Clean Energy, the gas producing company that we buy. We buy their gas, they buy our electricity, and that'll be done by the first quarter of 2025.
Oh.
Interesting program.
And then that again leads to the
And
same
with a pay down
question.
of 7 years.
And now that leads again to the same question, you know, what's gonna happen to the price of electricity in the future with all this electricity being supplied to the array? And, you know, we can say, well, you know, we've got more people, we've got more of this, but are we gonna be supplying more to the array, or more to the, you know, the whatever it is, than we need? And then what happens then? If we were gonna buy, if we had something that in, like, we're gonna own it in 7 years, or we're gonna own it in 5 years, I'd definitely be much more for it. But I just don't see the projections as what I feel is good, and I don't like the contract.
Our initial cost to pay for the recycling is 1.2 million, and we're doing a 7-year payback.
I move to approve Resolution 24-13, authorizing the Township Manager to prepare and execute the required PPA contracts and documents for the amount of 60%.
Second.
I have one other little comment. What happens would we be better off than going onto this to throw some solar panels on our maintenance shed?
Well, that's my thought.
Because, you know, if we do that, then we control everything and we don't have to get involved in this contract.
That's why you go for 60%, and we can look into that.
But if we go for 60%, we run the risk of getting 50% of our power down there and then not having to pay for 10% that we're not going to use.
And there's a company out of Pittsburgh called Penn Solar that we contracted with to help design our program. They are the best of groups in planning these things.
Mm-hmm.
They put our program together for us.
I think it's really interesting to be able to it's not one or the other, it's both. When you put up panels. And
No, to do your own with 1,650 panels are costing us 1.2 million. That's all the interconnect switches, all the wiring. How much space do we have on municipal buildings to do that? And ours are all roof-based, no ground-based panels.
I'm not sure how much.
It'll have to be facing the right way.
We're only using 3 buildings. We have 5 buildings we could use. We're not using them. Don't need them.
I guess my point was that I think more what Nigel was saying is that you can do both. You can have 60% and you can have solar panels.
But my question is, after that, if we turn around and do what we're supposed to do to this building, and we reduce the cost and do what we need to do for the streetlights, and we reduce our energy usage by 20%, and then we put solar panels up, and that's producing 30%, or 40%, or we're still locked into a 15-year contract that's telling us we have to pay 60% of this cost.
I don't think you're going to be able to reduce your energy sufficiently to overcome.
I'm saying if we put solar panels.
But that's still not going to be sufficient for the amount of energy.
Well, how many solar panels do you put up?
Right, exactly.
Well, how many?
And they're not, they're expensive. It's like, we'd have to take out a bond to
But
do
we
it.
own
They're
it.
alone. So, yeah, you gotta work out the
Control it,
details.
sell it, and what's our payback period?
Well,
you can only sell it to governmental agencies within 2 miles of the initial installation. You can't sell it on the market. We can't sell 30% of our recycling electricity to the Corning plant next door. The PUC won't allow that. We can only sell it to government-related agencies. And clean energy is that. That's why we're dealing with that.
So I guess I'd also like to remind you that the other thing that Bruce said is that there's some money here and some money there, but there's also the principle involved with it. And I think about and you all agree with this already. We already agree that we need to do more to become neutral. But I think about the things that are happening and the costs that we're spending because we're not advancing sufficiently. Well, my mother-in-law is in Asheville. She was there. We had to rescue her from Asheville. And then she was with us for 3 weeks. And she went back and she had serious stress problems going back and went into the hospital. There are many social costs to not acting, the financial costs to not acting. Western PA has got droughts. And my son works out in Western PA, and the hotel, the water was coming out brown because of the droughts. And the hotels are paying for that. So there's this bigger picture and the externalized costs, the long-term costs. And I know you all want to do the right thing, because that's why you're debating how to do it. But to make sure that the principle involved does not get lost.
Well, I mean,
with the economics.
we've got the right principle, okay? We're either gonna buy green energy or we're gonna do this. It's kind of the right principle anyway. But the only question is which is better for the township. That's really,
Well, I mean,
that's,
it's projected to save us some money. It's not a huge sum of money, but it's a statement that we're doing it.
well, it's a
That's the way I
statement
look
that
at
we're
it.
buying green energy.
Well, I mean, we can, but we don't know what the market's gonna do, and it's likely to go up an awful lot. So, we could save, it's possible we save even more. I don't think we'll lose money on the proposition of doing this, so, but
We
anyway.
don't know that either.
Right, well, we do have a motion in a second. We've had beat this, so I'd like to call the question. So, all in favor of, favor of resolution 2413, authorizing the township manager to prepare and execute the required PPA contracts and documents, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. 3-2. No.
It's a tough one.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Larry.
Thanks, Larry.
It is tough, and but I just think we beat this around too much.
Long meeting.
Don't forget to add the cost of what we're paying the lawyer to review the
Anyway.
contract and how much.
Okay, let's move on.
Wasn't that-
I've got to get up really early, as you all know,
Me
and
too.
we've got a few more things in the agenda, so we could probably do this, the quick style we do for some of these things that just have to be done. So,
Move to approve resolution 24-14 adopting the 2025 Harris Township budget.
Second.
Oh, go ahead. Good, you did good.
any more discussion on that?
Yeah, let me share a few things. I mean, quality is a quality of life budget, and quite frankly, it's providing fire protection, provides police services. The per resident cost per day is 0.246 cents per day. Covers all of our services, management, maintenance. Provides library, active adult center, regional parks, Hessfield, Oak Hall, Whitehall. Interestingly, flush toilets in Hessfield by springtime. The nature center, 2 swimming pools. Provides land use planning, zoning, code enforcement, and CANA. So for the budget, we're getting a great deal of quality of life provided to residents here in Township. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, any more?
That's it.
Okay, all in favor of approving the 2025 Harris Township budget, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous, okay. Now we got resolution 2415, appropriating sums for COG programs.
Make the motion, we approve resolution 2415.
Okay,
Second.
thank you. Discussion, we've had plenty. Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
It's your turn.
No, I'm not here. I'm listening.
All right, resolution 2416, establishing property tax rates for 2025.
Move to approve resolution 2416.
Second.
Okay, discussion. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Move to approve resolution 2417, designated depositories for Harris Township.
Second.
Okay, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous again. Resolution 2418, setting the township manager's salary for 2025.
Table.
Move
Every
to
year.
adopt
No.
resolution 2418, setting the
30-day notice
salary
and
for
table.
fiscal year 2025. Who's gonna second that? I just said it.
Okay. All right, so,
Dies for lack of a second.
Yeah, is there a second?
exactly. What?
I move to approve it. Is there a second?
No.
Okay. I guess
are horrible.
I guess I'll have to second that.
Well, you have to be in favor, though.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous too. So, move on to the manager report.
Just since you made me sweat, I'm going to read every single one of my items. Just kidding. All right, just a few
Motion
things.
to adjourn.
Few things I'll note on here. Number one, we had incorrectly listed the date for the reorganization meeting. It's Monday, January the 6th. Just make sure you have that on your calendars. Number two, this is in relation to the swimming pool covers.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah, we weren't able to find any data out there to support the cover only. It's allowed by the building code or the uniform construction code, but we couldn't find anything that said they're the safest option. A lot of things we looked at said both makes it safer. So we
And
can.
your printouts indicate that.
Correct. And those
there's
were
good combinations of
Yeah.
both.
And those were from the company that these folks had said they were planning to use.
Oh, really?
They had those
Okay.
linked on their website. So.
By the way, I read all that, and that confirmed that we need fixes.
So you did table that motion at the previous meeting, so we can put it on an agenda for you to formally consider.
Frank, did you say the permit issue? Is that what you?
No, I said I would keep the fence in there.
Oh,
after,
okay.
After reading that.
I sort of like the yearly inspection, option
Yeah.
for yearly inspection, but you know.
It still gets
So-
older, it gets
I don't know
sold.
if,
Why?
do
What
they
happened?
do that now?
We don't have to have the reorganizational meeting till the 6th. The state's been strict about that, having it.
It's the
right
first
away.
Monday of the month, unless it falls on a holiday.
And we're allowed to do that.
That's what PSATs came out and said it was the 6th.
Okay.
Is there a football game?
Jumping down to number 6, just in relation to the letter from the Academy Streets residents, I am going to continue to work on a policy for you folks to look at here, I hope soon. And number 8, I wanted to see if there's any interest in having CBICC come to a future board meeting. They've asked whether or not you'd be willing to support their economic development strategic plan for the county now that it's been published. It's completely up to you as a board, but I thought I would ask if you want to have that as an item or not.
I've heard it twice.
That's fine.
Well, we have an expert then.
What happens?
Anyone else heard it?
What happens if we don't
Nothing.
emotionally support them?
Nothing.
Basically. No.
We don't get emotional support.
Yeah.
It's the same one they gave to the general forum.
Yeah, exactly. And- Okay.
It's available on their webpage.
So those were my items I was going to pull out. If anybody has any questions about anything else, please let me know.
The Gypsy Moth thing was sort of interesting too. Interesting information with respect to what they inspected and what they found where.
All right. And moving right along, approval of vouchers.
Motion in the value of $275,186.72.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on the vouchers? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. COG committee reports. Executive committee did not meet. Human resources committee did not meet. Climate action sustainability committee did not meet. You're up, Dennis.
Facilities did not meet. Land use, we met Thursday, had an update on the results of the community survey. Very interesting information, a lot of nice graphs, good information. They're going to present that to the forum January, February, when things open up.
Is that from the study? Was that from the study that was approved?
There was a community survey that they did. They had meetings all over the area with respect to groups and.
It's part of the comprehensive plan update.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a
Thank you.
10-year update, yeah. But a lot of good information that is worth sharing. And the solar power was canceled and is meeting now, end of January sometime. Don't know yet.
Okay. That it?
That's
Yes,
it.
indeed. Okay. Bruce on parks.
Parks Capital did not meet. Parks Governance still hasn't pulled the trigger, kicking the can down the road. Park Authority basically shutting down the parks, getting them winterized and stuff like that.
Have they shared anything about the Hess toilet installation issue? Has that been on the agenda at all?
No, not
Okay.
not to any extent. I find it hard to believe that we'll have flush toilets in the spring.
They were saying springtime, so.
I thought they were gonna start them in the spring.
It has to be ordered and brought in a truck.
And I'll mention that the Whitehall Road is still, there's an issue with the, essentially the perk tests that were needed to be done.
Well,
We're not done. We've got, it's budgeted now, and we need that for the occupancy permit. We're down to about $2,000 left in the budget of contingency monies. We're kind of right down to the wire.
Okay, Frank.
Finance. Okay, most of it, we met last month, but there was one item in finance that I think we all need to know about. The IRS notified us that for 1099 NEC filing for the tax year 2022, we were delinquent because here it turns out that the credit card that we used for that was in Joe Vigilone's name. And so when he left, they never changed that. So he was the contact person. And the bottom line is we were defunct. Now, they found it and they went back and told them. But since we went quick enough, it basically cost us $7,200 is what that cost was. The problem is we did the same thing for 23.
Same card?
Now, same thing. And now they found it all out at the same time. But basically, we're potentially on the hook for $34,000 for this year. And we won't know that until they do it. So it's a total of about $40,000 because they didn't change Joe's name as the contact person. They didn't. The credit card was in his name, so even though they used the same credit card, it wouldn't go through.
It was a COG card with Joe's name on it.
It was a COG card with Joe's name on it, and when they paid it on that card because it was on file. Problem was the card didn't go through, obviously, because Joe wasn't there anymore. Card got canceled, and nobody ever changed it with the IRS. So bottom line is, and then they changed the due date, and we didn't pick up on that. So that's pretty much. So we're going to get hit with pretty good penalty. We know we're going to pay about $7,200 for 2022, and probably another $34,000 next year. And that probably won't be till next year sometime. Next year's budget. The 72 will be this year because that's about how long it takes. And we admitted everything to the IRS. So there is a chance that we could get that's a tier 3. For 2023, there is a chance that we could get knocked down to a tier 2 or a tier 1. A tier 1, $72,000.
What does the accountant say about it? I mean, there must be some forgiveness.
They already, there is until you go over the date, then the forgiveness goes away. We actually called it out on ourselves. If we'd have waited till they caught it in 2 or 3 years, it would have been worse. Yeah. But we caught it on our own, so they may jump us back from a tier 3 to a tier 2 or 1. But bottom line is we're going to have some IRS penalties. And that was the big thing that came out of that. And just for that, we canceled this month's meeting. So I thought that was a good thing.
When did the COG budget get approved?
What's that?
When did the COG budget get approved? We didn't meet.
It was at the October meeting, it was when it was approved.
Because we normally do that November.
Yeah, it was done in October of this year and sent out.
And we canceled November's meeting. I kept wondering, when did we did it? Okay.
October, yeah.
And the State College Area Connector, I went the other night to that thing with the kids.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, they did some great things. But I'll tell you what I told them they need to do. They did the traffic calming on Bow Avenue, and you should see it. It's really sharp. I mean, and they're going to drop off the new pamphlet to see it. Good. But what we wanted with the small area business plan, those kids drew out really well. And it looks really nice down there with trees going down the middle. It's a really nice thing with sidewalks and bike paths. Now we just got to get PennDOT to jump up. But the kids did a really good job with it.
Do they have anything unique about the route going that way? Toward
it's still pretty much the middle section's the biggest one that's going to be the issue. I mean, we all pretty much know what's happening at this end. Down at the other end, it's probably going to be very close to where it's at. I don't think the Darlingtons are going to lose a lot of their Darlings. Darlington.
Darlington.
They're not going to lose a lot. They're going to lose some, but I don't think they're going to lose a lot.
north, south, middle, and they're gonna sort of do in the middle.
I would hope so, but it really comes back to what NEPA says and
Yeah.
EPA. I mean, they could come back and say, okay, the only one we're approving is the northern route, and that's the one you're gonna do. You know, so it depends on what they say with this, that's where it's at right now.
Well, the reverse is like you do south route.
Yeah,
Same
because
kind
they
of
could
thing.
go back and say it's gonna be the south.
What you, hold up, what was I gonna say, wasn't there an issue with the number of cars coming through?
Huh?
Wait, what, okay.
What do you mean, the number of issues of the cars coming through? That's why we're building it.
Well, you can't stop the cars.
What do you mean you
If they're
can't
making a left on 45, you can't stop the cars.
What are you talking about?
I don't know, forget it. I haven't eaten yet today. It's 9,
All right,
it's
we're gonna
going
move
on
on.
10 o'clock. I've not had
MPO,
my food. Forget it.
Just one thing on MPO, I don't know if I brought this up last month, but we did a lot of housekeeping stuff. CATA come up with, gave us a report on where they're heading and what they're doing.
What's the position of CATA? Are they feeling uncomfortable? Are they feeling?
No, not really.
I watched the presentation. I didn't get much out of what he was saying.
Not really. They're not really uncomfortable, but they're basically right now where they're at is they're looking for a new director.
The fiscally, are they strained fiscally?
No, they're not strained fiscally.
Okay.
Penn State's pretty much paid them, but what they've done is to get more money out of Penn State, they added that the kids from the apartment complexes can now go to like Walmart. They used to be they could go from the apartment complex to the campus.
Oh,
now,
okay.
now they can go to other locations with their pass. And that doing that, they were able to up the pass money and that contract money to get more money. So right now they're doing fine with it. Most of the things that we're doing here are pretty good. The CATA Go seems to be working really well. They're looking at that in other areas. They're trying to work with Bellefonte and that.
Yeah,
But
the discussions used to be Spring Township, Benner Township, and Bellefonte.
here's the thing. There's two things. Active transportation plan and there's a thing out there called complete streets. Have you heard that?
Yep.
Because there could be money in there for sidewalks that we could look at is one of the things. The other thing that came up was with me jumping up and down and carrying on at the MPO meeting. Benner Township is going to put $1,800 or some dollars into that project every year for the next 2 or 3 years. So we finally got them to wake up. Hey, you got to give us some money. So that'll reduce how much we've got to put into that project for that study on the Benner Pike. And the other big study next year that we had some discussion on was the rail study. For looking at the rail study and what could we do here to make it easier for people from Center County to get to the rail system, whether it's a rail system, bus service, whatever, but they're going to look at that. And then they also, MPO now has come up with a project request form so that if we want to do a project, all we've got to do is fill out the form. It's a 2-page form. It's a real simple thing. It gets it going. We send it into them and they start looking at our project. So, but that was pretty much everything that was there. The other thing I mentioned was, and we really don't have a lot of it, but tech committee. Okay, for those of you who don't know, you have an MPO coordinating committee and you have a tech committee. Coordinating committee is the elected officials and PennDOT and that, and we are the ones that say you make the decisions and vote the stuff in. Then you have a technical committee right now that basically looks at things. Now, what happened was when we did the strategic plan, both the technical committee and the coordinating committee are doing the same thing. So staff is duplicating. So we said, hey, we've sent out a thing and we actually rearranged the technical committee that instead of having somebody from each township and they all have their we would get actually experts. So we would have maybe somebody that was a bridge expert or a paving expert, somebody that we could have, and we could move them if we had a project. Rail expert, for example, and have that committee actually look at technical stuff that they would provide to us to get our thing done. When it came to vote, the technical committee and they shot it down. So we're right back to. I looked at next month's agenda. going forward, and it's identical. But the technical committee, we're doing the same things again, so we are gonna revisit that this year and see about re-changing it, because there's no use having two committees doing the same thing, you know. Anyway, that's all I had.
The county is still putting a lot of money into the MPO system?
Oh, yeah, county, everybody has their share that they
Okay.
put in, so that, yeah, everybody's putting in, the ones that I say a lot about and I'm pretty vocal about is if you, like Bellefonte, for example. Bellefonte is not a member of the MPO.
Yeah.
They're in that region, so the county pays their part of their thing. And you say, well, why don't you guys get in it? Well, we don't want to raise tax. Well, we don't want to raise taxes either, but you know, that's part of it. So that's where we have a lot now, like you take Bald Eagle, Upper Bald Eagle, Lower Bald Eagle, they're small townships. They aren't going to have the funds to get in as a member, and that works good for them. But some of our major areas, they should be in there. And they're the first ones to send us a letter saying, we want you to give us money to do this. You know, well, get in here as a member and be a voting member, you know. So anyway, that's the biggest thing there as far as funding goes.
Can't have it both ways.
No.
Okay.
I got nothing.
You got nothing?
I got nothing.
All right, sounds good to me. All right, so number 9. on the
Second.
agenda.
Denny, I should have started those earlier.
Oh, really? Okay, well.
I was introducing the agenda item. Okay, second. Okay, we're out of here.